Chapter 706. A soul sage was considered an upper-middle-class soul master. In the martial spirit hall, soul sages were usually the red-robed bishops of the martial spirit hall. They were not found everywhere. Most of the soul sages were in the various academies, clans, and empires. Generally speaking, it was impossible to see a soul sage on the streets. Furthermore, soul sages would usually emit a certain amount of soul power undulations. There was also an aura. Upper-middle-class soul masters would have an aura that they had cultivated over many years. One could tell at a glance that they were not ordinary people. How could it be this man who looked like an ordinary sailor? However, after hearing Poktif's words, Hulaina and the others did not dare to doubt him. They guessed that this man must have some method to hide his aura and prevent others from sensing him. Old Shan turned around and glanced at Wang Feng. His expression did not change as he smiled. "Esteemed guest, you have good eyesight." The meaning of his words was obviously a direct admission. Seeing this, Hulaina and the others could not help but look at Old Shan again. Soul sages were highly valued in the martial soul palace, although there were quite a few of them. They did not expect that a soul sage would be a boatman here. This was because this boat was not big. It was quite different from an ordinary boat. It could only accommodate 10 people at most. It only had 2 floors and did not look very sturdy. When the 3 of them stepped on the deck, there would be squeaking sounds of metal clashing. This made the 3 of them wonder if such a small boat would be overturned by a single wave. "My boat is not suitable for long voyages." Old Shan looked at the 3 of them, who were puzzled. After retracting the anchor, the boat suddenly emitted a low hum as if something was being driven. The stern of the boat picked up countless waves as it slowly sailed out of the harbor. "I'm just a middleman." Old Shan smiled and said, "I'm responsible for bringing you to the destination of the Purple Pearl. Looking at the 3 of you, I don't think you're going to an ordinary island. You should be going to the Sea God's Island, right?" The 3 of them were stunned again. You can tell. Evil Moon could not help but be surprised. "Why can't I tell?" Old Shan shook his head and said, "I've lived in vast sea city for decades. I only need to take a few glances to know where someone wants to go. You're all land-based soul masters from the outside world. Most of the land-based soul masters who want to go out to sea do business. A small number of them do it for adventure, and a small number of them do it for the Sea God's Island. If the first 2 knew that this was the Sea King's ceremony, they definitely wouldn't have rushed out to sea. Only those soul masters who wanted to go to the Sea God's Island would be so impatient, and they weren't afraid of the Sea King's ritual. Those who dared to go to the Sea God's Island were extremely confident in their own strength. That's why I don't fear the Sea King's ritual." Hearing Old Shan's tireless explanation, the 3 of them looked at each other. They didn't expect an ordinary soul sage to say something like that. However, thinking about how the other party had stayed in this place for several decades, he was sure that he had seen all kinds of people, so it was understandable. Wang Feng smiled. Everyone had their own specialties. The Sea God's Island isn't a simple place. Old Shan heaved a long sigh and focused on steering the boat. He didn't say anything else. Wang Feng sensed a little. This boat seemed to be broken, but it had been specially modified. It didn't need a sailor to move it, and there was probably a special soul tool at the bottom. It wasn't slow, and it was very fast and stable. Because it was early in the morning, the boat gradually moved away from the harbor. The true scene of the sea was revealed to the 3 of them. It was a different thing from looking at it from midair. Wang Feng could also feel the majestic waves of the sea, which corresponded to the azure sky. The 3 of them stood at the bow of the boat, surrounded by boundless seawater. It felt as if the world was lonely at this moment. However, they got used to it after some time. As the boat slowly moved forward, the 3 of them became more and more unsightly. Although the boat was stable, it still shook a lot. The 3 of them had never been on a boat before, and their bodies couldn't withstand the shaking. At first, they could still barely resist it with their soul power. However, after a while, they couldn't help but vomit with a pale face. The Martial Soul Hall didn't consider this. In other words, the people from the Martial Soul Hall didn't go out to sea. Naturally, they wouldn't know about this. Wang Feng stood against the wind and didn't feel much. "Ha ha, eat some sour fruits." Old Shan looked at Hulaina and the other two and took out the sour fruits he had prepared. It's really your first time out to sea. You'll get used to it. These sour fruits were similar to plums, citrus, and other fruits. They could alleviate the symptoms of seasickness. However, the three of them didn't eat them. After thanking him, they used their soul power to resist. Old Shan didn't mind. He knew that the three of them were wary. I'll eat them. Wang Feng took the sour fruits from Old Shan and ate two of them. Suddenly, he missed his previous life. He had lived in this world for 20 years and had adapted to the Douluo world. However, he still saw many things related to his previous life. Occasionally, he would feel nostalgic. Are you thinking of your hometown? Old Shan looked at Wang Feng and suddenly said, Yes. Wang Feng wasn't surprised. This Old Shan was also a smart person. He could guess it by eating a few fruits. Old Shan smiled. He was surprised by the other party's frankness. Since you want to go to the Sea God's Island, I'll tell you. I'm sure you've learned about the Sea God's Island before coming here. However, you definitely don't know that it's not easy to get to the Sea God's Island. First of all, there's a group of powerful sea spirit beasts guarding the Sea God's Island. It's hard for outsiders to get close. Among these sea spirit beasts, there's a 100,000-year one. If you don't have the confidence to get past this group of sea spirit beasts, I suggest you go back the way you came. Hulaina and the other two walked over immediately. 100,000-year soul beast? Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. What's it called? Great White Demon Soul Shark. Old Shan said. It's a powerful sea spirit beast guarding the Sea God's Island. Wang Feng nodded slightly. 100,000-year soul beast was definitely not simple. There's such a powerful sea spirit beast? Evelmoon's scalp tingled. It's fine if it's just one, but it's a group. If it was just 100,000-year soul beast, they wouldn't be afraid with Lord Popediff around. However, if it was a group, it meant that there were many more of these sharks. Even Lord Popediff would have a hard time dealing with them. And in the sea, secondly, Old Shan pointed to the front. I'm not sure about the exact location of the Sea God's Island. However, if you want to get to the Sea God's Island, you'll have to pass through the territories of many sea spirit beasts. Let alone the Sea King's ceremony. Even during normal times, these sea spirit beasts will attack if they see any intruders. Some of the older sailors might be able to avoid some of the sea spirit beast territories, but they'll be attacked eventually. Into Chapter 707. The second one that appeared in front of Wang Feng was a crocodile that looked similar to the otaku crocodile. The otaku crocodile was a wind-winged blizzard crocodile. It had wings and was covered in icicle-like armor. This crocodile also had a pair of wings and was covered in ocean blue armor that looked like gemstones. Its eyes were also ferocious. The third one was a whale shark whose entire body was blue. It was also the one with the strongest aura. Wang Feng estimated that it had at least 90,000 years of cultivation. The whale shark was a type of shark, but it had a whale-like body and was close to 80 meters long. At this moment, when Wang Feng stepped into the deep sea, he finally met 3 aquatic soul beasts. Each of these 3 aquatic soul beasts was bound by Sea God's lock. It was different from Wang Feng's lock, which could be directly untied. The Sea God's lock on their bodies would directly pierce into their bodies. It was impossible to untie it. It was even possible that the Sea God's lock had grown together with the flesh on the 3 aquatic soul beast bodies because they were in their bodies all year round. Wang Feng didn't expect to meet these 3 aquatic soul beasts so quickly. In the sea, not to mention that these 3 aquatic soul beasts are already extraordinary. Even those 100,000 years old aquatic soul beasts on land can't defeat ordinary 80,000 years old aquatic soul beasts. Wang Feng didn't doubt this point. Just like the Soul Douluo of the Sea God's Island, they could defeat Tidal Douluo on the Sea God's Island. They had to face the huge pressure of the sea. But now, these 3 aquatic soul beasts were one of Wang Feng's tests. He needed to tame these 3 aquatic soul beasts, and at the same time, cut off the 3 chains. If it were other soul masters, they would be in a state of exhaustion after just descending to 5,500 meters. Not to mention taming these 3 aquatic soul beasts. They wouldn't even be able to escape. Just like those two purple-clothed sea spirit masters said, this was an impossible matter. But to me, it's not impossible. Wang Feng looked at these three aquatic soul beasts with extremely strong auras. At this moment, the three aquatic soul beasts suddenly attacked Wang Feng. It could be said that they could smell the alluring aura on Wang Feng's body a long time ago. But why did they only appear now? It was very simple, because they also knew that Wang Feng, who had just reached this position, was in his weakest state. These three aquatic soul beasts had lived for many years, so they were naturally very smart. A soul master who could pull three sea gods' chains and sink to such a terrifying depth. How strong was he? He was definitely terrifyingly strong. From a moment Wang Feng released the power of the blood traces and the dark angel martial soul at 4,000 meters. Wang Feng's aura had already reached a peak. At that time, the three aquatic soul beasts had already planned for this moment. This human was undergoing a test. As long as they waited until he reached the limit of the test, when he was at his weakest, then they would make their move. At the same time, the deeper they sank, the more advantageous it would be for them. The first to rush over was the blood flood dragon. In such a deep sea, this blood flood dragon's speed was also extremely fast. In a few blinks of an eye, it had already reached Wang Feng. Wang Feng was still in the bubble formed by the blue flag. If he retreated, Wang Feng would have to face the pressure of the seawater. Hence, he naturally wouldn't do that. The moment the blood flood dragon attacked, Wang Feng turned the blue flag in his hand and circulated his remaining soul power and spiritual power to the maximum. It was as if a hole had been opened in the sea. The bubble suddenly expanded and engulfed the blood flood dragon. Seawater disappeared around the blood flood dragon, causing its body to be extremely strange. It was as if it had suddenly risen from the ground into a vacuum. The blood flood dragon's body was sluggish for a few seconds, and Wang Feng took this opportunity to dodge its attack. The blood flood dragon's body was covered in densely packed thorns. Its attack power was extremely strong. Given his current state, it wouldn't be easy for him to get entangled by it. Without seawater, the blood flood dragon wasn't used to it. Its abilities were greatly reduced, and it didn't have any advantage in the sea. However, its abilities were still there. At the same time, the other two aquatic soul beasts also realized that something was amiss. They didn't charge towards Wang Feng immediately. Instead, they roared a few times. At this moment, the whale shark abruptly opened its bloody mouth. A ray of light gathered in its mouth. However, it didn't shoot out. Instead, it produced a terrifying suction force. Endless seawater surged into the whale shark's mouth. This naturally included Wang Feng. The seawater carried Wang Feng and surged into the whale shark's mouth at an extremely fast speed. Even a tidal Douluo would find it hard to resist such a terrifying suction force in the sea. Wang Feng frowned and kicked forward. The star cannon in his leg bone combined with the star core to form an intense ray of light. He instantly blasted it into the whale shark's mouth. However, the star cannon became a lot dimmer under the pressure of the seawater. Although it was strengthened by the star core, it was still a lot weaker. This was the weakness of soul masters on land and the sea. If they were on land, this attack would be enough to severely injure the whale shark. However, the star cannon blasted into the whale shark's mouth. It only caused the whale shark's lower abdomen to light up. It seemed like an explosion had occurred inside. The star cannon should have injured the whale shark. However, its injuries weren't serious. Perhaps to this whale shark, it was equivalent to a normal person eating a devil chili. Although it was very uncomfortable, it wasn't fatal. The suction force from the whale shark's mouth didn't decrease. Instead, it became stronger. It was obvious that it was even angrier. At the same time, Wang Feng's torso suddenly lit up. His spirit seal soul skill turned into a ray of ice-colored profound light and bombarded the whale shark's body. However, before the attack could land, the blood-colored flood dragon suddenly spat out a ball of blood. It exploded in front of the whale shark and formed a blood-colored wall of water. The ice-colored profound light landed on the wall of water and instantly froze into an ice wall. It didn't attack the whale shark. At the same time, the sea crocodile that looked like the otaku crocodile slammed into the ice wall. It destroyed the ice wall and broke Wang Feng's spirit seal soul skill. The 3 sea soul beasts seemed to be incomparably experienced. It couldn't be said that they had a tacit understanding, but because their target was Wang Feng at this moment, they naturally had to cooperate. Cunning and treacherous. His spirit seal's soul skill being broken caused Wang Feng to frown slightly. He didn't have a foothold in the sea, so it was impossible for him to exert the strength that he had on land. Coupled with the fact that he was indeed weak at this moment. He'd originally wanted to use his spirit seal's soul skill to freeze the 3 soul beasts, then use Siphon to absorb the soul power of the 3 soul beasts to swiftly replenish himself. He never expected that these 3 soul beasts would be so experienced and didn't even give him a chance to attack. As he got closer and closer to the whale shark's bloody mouth, Wang Feng's gaze went slightly cold. The Netherism flying sword's resistance in this 5,000 m of seawater was too great. Its attack power and speed would drop greatly. Even if Wang Feng's spiritual power had reached an extremely formidable level now. But in the sea, it was still very easy to dodge. Moreover, he couldn't execute the 7 annihilation sword technique. Relying solely on the domain of sin wasn't enough to affect these 3 sea soul beasts. It had to be said that these 3 beasts had picked a really good time to attack. End of this chapter. Chapter 708. Once you're attacked by those aquatic soul beasts, there's almost no chance of survival. This is the most dangerous situation in the ocean. Now that the Sea King ceremony is happening, many aquatic soul beasts will surface. Although we can predict their movements, it also means that you can't avoid them. These aquatic soul beasts cover a huge area. They'll occupy all the safe sea routes. If you want to go to the Sea God's Island, you'll definitely invade the territories of these aquatic soul beasts. The Purple Pearl Pirates are located on a small island. They have a special sea route, but it's also very dangerous. Everyone listened carefully. After that, Old Shan told Wang Feng and the rest about the territories of some stronger aquatic soul beasts. After listening to Old Shan, Wang Feng suddenly missed Cowardly Kuan. If Cowardly Kuan was released, these weak aquatic soul beasts would all retreat. Old Shan, I heard from the middle-aged sailor that the Sea King ceremony is because an aquatic soul master killed an aquatic soul beast. Does that aquatic soul master and aquatic soul beast have a name? Old Shan's words made Hulaina and the rest trust him a little, and they became more familiar with him. Ha ha! When Old Shan heard this, he laughed and said, "Those are just fabricated legends. That guy's too weak, so he doesn't know much. Let me tell you, the reason for the Sea King ceremony is because there's an overlord-class soul beast in the depths of the ocean. Every year during this season, it will take action and startle many soul beasts in the ocean. These soul beasts have no choice but to surface to avoid provoking this overlord-class soul beast. But if you're serious, there's a story about this back then. But in the end, this overlord-class soul beast didn't die, and that aquatic soul master died. Even a titled Douluo can't defeat such an overlord-class soul beast in the ocean." After hearing this, Hulaina and the rest were enlightened. Wang Feng also laughed. He didn't take it seriously. So when he heard Old Shan's words, he wasn't too surprised. After that, they listened to Old Shan talk about various things that happened in the ocean, and it was an eye-opener. They also learned that the Overlord-class soul beast was called the deep-sea demon whale. Wang Feng had heard of this soul beast before. Even if he didn't read the story, he had heard of it because it was too famous. A million-year soul beast. If one were to judge a soul beast based on its age and cultivation, 100,000-year soul beast would be equivalent to a titled Douluo. 100,000 years was only one level. A million years was equivalent to level 100. A soul beast that was infinitely close to becoming a god. However, the difference between their actual combat strength was like heaven and earth. If he were to encounter a soul beast of that level, Wang Feng felt that he would have no choice but to run. Normal title Douluo would probably be able to defeat such soul beasts in a few moves. After chatting for so long, the night gradually darkened, and the first day passed peacefully. On the second day, Wang Feng saw many soul beasts on the surface of the sea. Most of them were small sea soul beasts. Elder Shan seemed to be very experienced as he managed to avoid many sea spirit beasts. After 3 to 4 days, he still hadn't reached his destination. This distance was really far. Even if Wang Feng used his flying sword to carry the 3 of them, he would not be able to fly for such a long time. Hey, isn't that Hyder's ship? I didn't expect him to go out to sea too. At this moment, Elder Shan seemed to have caught sight of ship in the distance. He was a little surprised. Wang Feng looked over and realized that Elder Shan was talking about a very large ship. It was at least 3 times bigger than this ship. With Wang Feng's eyesight, he could see some people on the ship. Acquaintances. Do you know that ship? Wang Feng asked. You can say that. Elder Shan shook his head. Hyder is different from me. I'm just a middleman. However, this guy is a real pirate. His strength is average, but he is more ruthless. He likes to pretend to be a merchant ship. After he deceives people, he will kidnap soul masters from the continent. From the looks of it, the people on that ship are just like you. They want to go to Sea God's Island. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone out to sea. However, the place they are going doesn't seem right. Elder Shan looked in the direction of a large ship. His eyes flashed. Hyder is crazy. He wants to go to that place. What's wrong? Where are they going? Wang Feng frowned slightly. Could this be the plot of the original work? Didn't I tell you about that overlord before? Old Shan looked around and said, Hyder's position is to go to the core territory of the Overlord of the Sea. If he goes there, he will definitely incur the wrath of the Overlord of the Sea. It's practically suicide. Wang Feng's eyes flashed. Could it be that this was the plot of the original novel? Why did they come into contact with the demon whale so quickly? How did they survive? Wang Feng couldn't help but think. A million-year soul beast can kill them with a sneeze. Even if Little 3 and the others can fight a tidal Douluo, they are no match for the demon whale in the sea. Wang Fengshin's heart skipped a beat when he thought of this. Hey, interesting. Wang Feng thought for a moment. I'll go take a look. This place isn't close to the Purple Pearl Island, right? Not close. You can reach it in about 4 to 6 hours. Elder Shan looked at Wang Feng. Esteemed guest, let me give you a piece of advice. That Overlord of the Sea won't let anyone get close to it. Wang Feng didn't say anything. At this moment, Hulaina walked over and said, Teacher, we don't have to care about this, right? However, Wang Feng said calmly, I'm a little curious about this Overlord of the Sea. Go to the Purple Pearl Island with him first. If there is a situation, send a signal, and I will appear immediately. Since we can go out to sea, it will be a pity if we can't see this Overlord of the Sea. The 3 of them didn't say anything. His Holiness, the Pope's personality, was like this. As proud and aloof as he was, he truly did not fear the heavens and earth. A few days ago, when he heard Old Shan talk about the situation of this Overlord of the Sea, he probably wanted to go and meet him. It was only because he had to protect the 3 of them that he didn't move. Thinking of this, Hulaina whispered, Teacher, please be careful. Wang Feng waved his hand and released the weights on their bodies. He turned into a long sword and flew away. A glint flashed in Old Shan's eyes when he saw this. It seems that your teacher is not simple. I heard that there's a sword Douluo on the continent. His martial soul is the 7 kills sword. Could it be that your teacher is the sword Douluo? Judging from his voice, he is very young. The 3 of them snorted when they heard this. End of chapter. Chapter 709. The sword Douluo is no match for teacher. Evil Moon glanced at Old Shan and smiled. Old Shan, you don't have to trick us. Just tell us to go to Purple Pearl Island. The 3 of them were not stupid. Old Shan was obviously trying to find out more about them. This guy is not simple. However, even if he was a soul sage, the 3 of them were not afraid of a soul Douluo. They could even escape from an ordinary tidal Douluo. Furthermore, the 3 of them felt extremely refreshed after the weight was lifted. They could feel their strength increasing exponentially. Old Shan smiled and did not answer. Sea demon. Tang Sen looked at the gloomy sky outside and felt uneasy. They had been out at sea for a few days. According to the map drawn by Grandmaster, the journey was relatively peaceful. Although they heard about the Sea King's ceremony when they boarded the ships at the port, most of the ships did not go out to sea. However, this was not a problem for them. They found a ship that dared to go out to sea. After some negotiations and transactions, they successfully set out to sea. However, the 9 of them were confused when they left the sea. It was difficult to distinguish north from south in the sea. They could only give the map to Captain Hyder and let him take them to Sea Demon Island. However, Tang San felt that there was something wrong with Captain Hyder yesterday. As expected, they pretended to be drugged, and the pirates revealed their true colors. They wanted to kidnap them. However, how strong were the 9 of them? After killing a few of the pirates, they forced Heidel to lead them to the Sea God's Island according to the map. However, the more they walked, the more fearful they became. His life is in our hands. I don't think he dares to do anything. Tang San shook his head. However, at this moment, dark clouds suddenly thickened in the distant sky. Lightning flashed and thunder roared. A storm suddenly came. Tang San walked out of the cabin and looked outside. His face suddenly became gloomy. In the distant sea, there was a terrifying whirlpool. It was like a heavenly eye shining brightly. What's that? Although it was very far away, Tang San felt his heart skip a beat. He suddenly felt an intense sense of danger. At this moment, the other 7 people walked out of their rooms. They were shocked when they saw the scene in the distance. In the most terrifying part of the sky, countless demonic sea beasts appeared. On the surface of the sea, countless demonic sea beasts jumped as if they were alarmed by something. Most of the demonic sea beasts that emerged from the sea were very strong. Some of them were very large, reaching 20 to 30 meters in size. The demonic sea beasts in the sky were very rare amphibious demonic sea beasts. They were a type of sea spirit beast that resembled seagulls. Tang Sen had heard about them from the Grandmaster. Although he knew that the number of demonic beasts on the sea would increase during the Sea King ceremony, it seemed that after entering this place, all the demonic sea beasts became violent and their numbers increased several times. All of a sudden, the sea devil stopped moving. Frantic tearing sounds came from the bottom of the ship. When they saw this, apart from Xiao Wu, a wisp of astonishment appeared on their faces. It was a demonic sea beast attack. Not to mention the front, just the current situation was already extremely dangerous. How could this be? Dai Mubai rushed into the cabin of the ship and grabbed Captain Heidel. He grabbed him by the neck and said coldly, "What the hell is going on? Where have you taken us? Wasn't yesterday's lesson enough?" Captain Heidel's face turned red, but he pretended not to know anything. "What do you mean what's going on? Didn't I follow the sea map you gave me and lead the way?" After he finished speaking, he coughed a few times. Bullsh asterisk T. This place is so dangerous. We're surrounded by demonic sea beasts. Oscar frowned and said, "What are you trying to do? You brought us here. Do you think you can leave here alive?" Heidel said, "This is the Sea King's ceremony. There are many demonic sea beasts on the sea. Isn't it normal to be surrounded? You guys are so strong. Just beat these demonic sea beasts away. What are you afraid of?" Tang Sen glanced at him coldly and said, "We've been out at sea for the past few days. Although we've encountered some demonic sea beasts, there aren't as many of them as there are here. What is this place? If you don't tell me, Mubai will throw you into the sea to feed these demonic sea beasts." Dai Mubai nodded. He didn't have a good impression of these pirates. If they were any other soul master, they would have been drugged yesterday. Ha! At this moment, Heidel laughed loudly. "It's okay, whatever. I don't want to live anyway. Forget it, I'll tell you. This place is a special sea. Do you know why there aren't any ships out at sea during the Sea King's ceremony? It's because 100,000-year overlord of the sea will appear in this sea. This beast will change its territory every year. Countless demonic sea beasts will emerge from the bottom of the sea and float on the sea surface to avoid provoking this overlord of the sea. Now, not only are you surrounded by countless demonic sea beasts, you've also barged into the territory of this deep-sea overlord. In the sea, even 10 titled Douluo can't beat this beast. You can't run away. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. Heidel laughed maniacally. Are you curious? Why would I use such a suicidal method to deal with you? Because you killed my only son yesterday. Maybe to you, he was just a pirate you casually killed. Hearing this, everyone's expression darkened again. Tang San shook his head. No one would have expected something like this. Let him fend for himself, Tang San said. Dai Mubai kicked Heidel away. His expression was gloomy as he looked at the sea of demonic sea beasts in the sky. At this time, the sea devil suddenly trembled and sank. Clearly, it had been bitten by the demonic sea beast below. Oscar, Tang San shouted. Oscar passed the mushroom sausage and Shunlingqi's beer to the rest of the team. Above, watch out for the demonic sea beasts in the sky. As soon as he finished speaking, Tang San put Xiao Wu into his interspatial pouch. He ate the mushroom sausage and flew up. At the same time, the ocean devil also sank instantly. Countless demonic sea beasts were roaring below. Retreat. The 8 of them maintained their formation and retreated. However, they realized that they couldn't move forward no matter how hard they flapped their wings. It was as if their soul power had been filled with lead. It was extremely heavy. An invisible force seemed to have enveloped the entire sea region. Seeing this, everyone's hearts sank. It's a territory. Tang San gritted his teeth and looked at the terrifying whirlpool in the distance. Roar! A deep roar resounded from the huge whirlpool, which seemed to pierce through the heavens and earth. Countless demonic sea beasts below. The weaker ones were instantly smashed into pieces. Those who were slightly stronger were frantically scattering in all directions. The demonic sea beasts in the sky didn't land. Instead, they screeched. End of chapter. Chapter 710. Immediately afterward, everyone saw an extremely terrifying scene. A whale that was at least hundreds of meters long slowly emerged from the sea, stirring up monstrous waves. The demon whale was blue in color, and there were countless strange patterns on its body. It looked like a mountain range, and its huge eyes were even bigger than the noon sun. However, the other eye was pitch black, and it was so empty that it made people feel suffocated. It was emitting a faint light. A low roar shook the sky, and a dark blue light was emitted from this demonic whale, instantly covering this sea area. Terrifying waves surged in the sea, making violent waves, but it seemed to be the background music of this demonic whale's roar. At this moment, the 8 people's minds were blank, as if they couldn't hear anything. It seemed that the demonic whale thought that these puny humans dared to intrude into its territory. Has the world changed? Far away, Wang Feng, who was on the flying sword, suddenly staggered and looked into the distance, his eyes shining. This is the aura of a million-year soul beast. Even from so far away, Wang Feng could feel a suffocating aura. Can Xiao San and the others escape? Wang Fengxin couldn't help but have a big question mark in his mind. A million-year soul beast is too terrifying. Even to Ming and Air Ming would be beaten up. It was probably also a matter of facing different levels. Wang Feng continued to fly into the distance with deep doubts. At the same time, the demonic whale shook gently in the sea. In an instant, the seawater was instantly shaken up, and a tsunami waterfall hundreds of meters high, like a tornado, attacked the 8 people. There were even countless corpses of demonic sea beasts, wrapped in blood. This attack felt like a soft sneeze from the demon whale. The boundless power of the sea instantly jolted Tang San awake. 8 in 1, Tang San roared, instantly waking the other 7 people. Quick! After saying that, Tang San suddenly released the vast sea universe cover. The next moment, the other 7 people instantly linked their soul power and transferred it to Tang San, who was the strongest. In an instant, the light of the vast sea universe cover was incomparably dazzling. At the same time, an intense golden light emerged from Tang San's body, enveloping the 7 people. It was Tang San's sixth soul skill, invincible golden body. Almost as soon as they were ready, the huge tsunami came crashing down on them from the sky. The devilish whale looked at the light emanating from the vast sea cosmic shroud, and it suddenly let loose another violent cry. There was a hint of fear in its eyes, but more than that, there was fury in its eyes. Without any hesitation, the huge vortex that Tang San saw on its huge back was really produced by the back of this demonic whale. The icy blue light was like a laser, rapidly condensing. The vortex was at least 20 meters in diameter, and the light was also close to 10 meters in diameter. Rumble. In the instant that the tsunami crashed into the vast sea cosmic barrier, the barrier was instantly shattered. Everyone's expression changed. They only felt a boundless pressure from the tsunami, causing their five senses to instantly disappear. Although no one suffered any injuries due to the state of the invincible golden body, the violent shock wave instantly sent 8 people flying. Although the invincible golden body could withstand the damage, it couldn't withstand the violent shock wave brought about by this monstrous tsunami. At this moment, Tang San and the others didn't realize that the demonic whale was suddenly enraged and directly released a second attack. The icy blue light directly blasted towards Tang San, who had the vast sea cosmic shroud. The light, which was close to 10 meters in diameter, instantly engulfed Tang San. The rest of the people were sent flying. They were further away, but they were still shaken by the aftershock of the light and spat out blood. The endless light and the aftershock of the light also shattered countless demonic sea beasts. The space that was already strengthened by the domain almost instantly made everyone lose consciousness. It was too strong. It was as if this wasn't something that humans could resist at all. The 8 of them were already strong enough, but they didn't even have the strength to fight back in the face of this demonic whale. Tang San was blasted out again, and his face was pale. He used his invincible golden body again to barely resist this attack. However, he felt that his invincible golden body couldn't withstand it, because he felt that his invincible golden body was about to shatter just now. However, at this moment, the demonic whale was even more enraged. The second light condensed in the huge vortex on its back again, and at the same time, its body shook again, and the endless tsunami attacked everyone again. Seeing this, Tang San looked at his teammates who were scattered behind him, and a trace of desperation flashed in his eyes. He couldn't let this beast use it again. The 8 spider spears on his back appeared, and the scorching power of the 4 soul bones continuously fused and gathered. In the next moment, Tang San disappeared on the spot. Teleportation. Tang San continuously teleported and flashed, and his body was shining with golden light as he landed on the demonic whale. Boom! The intense blue light shone on the ground again, and the endless tsunami madly blasted towards Tang San and the other 7 people who fell from mid-air. Tang San, who was bombarded by the blue light, had just landed on the back of the demonic whale when he felt his consciousness shake, and then he saw his 7 teammates being drowned by the tsunami. No! Tang San's eyes were about to pop out, and he let out a deafening roar. The 8 spider spears were like 8 sharp spikes, and they pierced into the center of the huge vortex. Beast! Tang San's eyes were bloodshot. At this moment, he used his invincible golden body to forcefully pierce the back of the huge vortex on the demonic whale's back. He knew that it would be difficult for his teammates to survive, but even so, he wanted to take this last chance to see if he could stop this beast. Kill. That's impossible. It's impossible to kill it. On the other side, at the moment when the tsunami hit the 7 people, a black light shield suddenly enveloped them. The tsunami hit the black light shield, but it didn't immediately shatter it. It was only when the intense blue light rushed over that the black light shield was instantly smashed into pieces. However, it didn't immediately attack the 7 people. A blood-red shadow appeared from the clouds, and the chains formed by the mysterious underworld spikes immediately caught the 7 people who had already fainted. Wang Feng's expression was extremely cold as he watched this scene. He had continuously teleported over, but he didn't expect the situation to be worse than he had imagined. The 7 people were now unconscious, and the situation wasn't optimistic. There weren't any demonic sea beasts around, and even if there were, they were all dead. Is this a million-year soul beast? Wang Feng's eyes flashed as he looked at the deep-sea demonic whale. Little 3 is really crazy. The invincible golden body only lasts for 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, won't they turn to ashes? Wang Feng glanced at the 7 people who had fainted and immediately placed them on the huge wooden planks floating on the sea. These wooden planks were formed after the sea devil was shattered. There were many corpses of demonic sea beasts floating around, and many soul rings were shining. After using the golden lotus to heal the 7 people, Wang Feng directly rushed towards the demonic sea beasts in the distance. End of chapter. Chapter 711. At this moment, Tang San's invincible golden body disappeared. The scarlet-red 8-spider spear seemed to have absorbed enough energy, and it exuded a strange and powerful color. However, it was instantly crushed by the blue light. The demon whale let out a low roar. Although the pain of being pierced by the 8 spider spears was like being bitten by a mosquito, it still offended its dignity. It wanted to destroy all of them. At this moment, Tang San had already fainted after absorbing a huge amount of energy through the 8 spider spear. Xiao Wu's consciousness was still in his 6th soul ring, and she couldn't wake him up. At this moment, a black light barrier fell on Tang San's body from afar. The demon whale's body jerked, and it sent Tang San flying. However, the black barrier blocked it. Although it shattered in an instant, it prevented the demonic whale from killing Tang San immediately. The demon whale looked at the human figure that suddenly appeared in midair, and a murderous intent flashed across its eyes. It was the overlord of the deep-sea demon whales, and it had roamed the sea for many years. However, its dignity was being trampled on by humans again and again. This was unforgivable. Wang Feng looked at the demon whale calmly. This beast was 2 to 3 times bigger than the cowardly Kuan. The cowardly Kuan was already in its growth stage, and it was very difficult for it to grow by 10 meters. It was at least 200 meters long. It looked like a small island. Let's save Xiao San first. I'll forget about fighting. Wang Feng focused his gaze and sensed the strength of the demon whale's domain. It caused him to move very slowly in this red sky. Wang Feng didn't dare to imagine how strong a million-year soul beast was. Even those rank 99 transcendent Douluo wouldn't be able to defeat him. This monster was much stronger than the Tianluo beast. However, the Tianluo beast was immune to both defenses. However, it was almost impossible to defeat such a powerful being in the sea. Wang Feng's gaze turned cold as he sensed the demon whale locking onto him, and his spiritual power surged. He looked at Tang San, who had been sent flying in midair. Wang Feng closed his eyes. Before he came, he had already enhanced himself with all 4 forms of the chaotic green lotus, just in case. The next moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. His pupils flashed with endless black light. 7 pairs of black light wings were 2 meters long. Combined with the soul-devouring blood wings, they formed 8 pairs of extremely dazzling wings. 7 blood runes lit up on Wang Feng's body. A monstrous aura condensed and rose from Wang Feng's body. Blood marks power plus Dark Angel's possession, in addition to Wang Feng's previous buffs. This was Wang Feng's most complete chain of power. Wang Feng didn't even use the cauldron of heaven and earth's rainbow divine light to weaken this demonic whale, because it was unlikely. It was impossible for the rainbow divine light to degenerate a million-year soul beast. Even if it was possible, it would only last for an instant, which would be a waste of time. His soul power had reached rank 70, and all his attributes had increased by at least 30 times. Wang Feng didn't use the innate 5-element flags either. Instead, the soul bones on Wang Feng's body shone with an intense radiance as boundless energy gathered on Wang Feng's body. His heart even emitted a ray of light that was as bright as the sun. This was a state where one's body had reached its limit. Even Wang Feng's body would not be able to withstand such a terrifying increase for a long time. The meteoric tear's energy surged out from his heart. After Wang Feng left the extreme north, he went to the capital of massacres and became a spy for the martial spirit hall. He had never used all his strength again because there was no chance at all. Right now, Wang Feng had no choice but to use it. He couldn't comprehend the secret of the dual gods for now. He couldn't use both his martial souls and soul skills at the same time. The Dark Angel's martial soul could only be possessed. Therefore, Panga's axe. Wang Feng's deep roar reverberated across the land like a demon from the abyss. The ordinary-looking Panga's axe appeared in Wang Feng's hand. In an instant, it solidified. Boom! In the next moment, an intense beam of light rose up from Wang Feng's body. Under such a terrifying force, Wang Feng felt the terrifying energy undulations from the Panga's axe once again. Even though he hadn't used it for a long time, Wang Feng knew that he could withstand more of the Panga's axe's power as he became stronger. The moment this pillar of light shot into the clouds, the entire sea seemed to tremble. The moment Wang Feng held the ancient axe, an even more powerful aura rose from his body. His clothes were melted by the pillar of light at this moment, revealing his muscular body. The 7 blood tattoos were like 7 huge black dragons. They circled Wang Feng's limbs and finally gathered at his heart. The sea started to roll and shake. The dark clouds were also pierced by this pillar of light. The demonic whale let out a fierce cry. It seemed to be shocked that this human could suddenly erupt with such power. The ancient axe, which was shining with supreme light, made it feel a trace of fear. It wasn't a power that a human could use. At this moment, Wang Feng felt the boiling power of the Panga's axe, which almost split the sky, but his heart was calm. This wasn't the first time he had used the Panga's axe. At this moment, his entire body was bathed in light. The pillar of light on his body could be seen clearly even from hundreds of miles away. It was truly connecting the heavens and the earth. Under this pillar of light, even the demonic whale's domain had no effect on him. It didn't seem to be weakened by any domain. The Panga's axe in his hand was swallowing and emitting terrifying light. Wang Feng's gaze fell on Tang's sand. The next moment, Wang Feng suddenly jumped up high, as if he was climbing up the sky. Finally, he slashed down. His right hand, which was holding the Panga's axe, was flowing with countless blood rays. The power was condensed to the extreme. Wang Feng found that when his strength increased, the power of the Panga's axe also increased at the same time. The power of the axe was greater, and the damage it caused was still there. Fortunately, with Wang Feng's current body, he could completely withstand it. At this moment, it seemed to feel that Wang Feng's aura and strength were getting stronger. The demonic whale let out an even more violent roar. The huge whirlpool on its back condensed a huge pillar of light with a diameter of only 20 meters. Its huge body shook the sea and set off endless waves. A towering tsunami water curtain, which was hundreds of meters high, rose in all directions. It condensed into a huge sea pressure and surrounded the center. It wanted to crush this powerful and somewhat frightening human into powder in an instant. At this moment, "Eat my axe!" The pillar of light climbed to the top along with Wang Feng's aura. The entire space seemed to be frozen. His whole body seemed to have climbed up to the sky. Then, with a force that could split the sky, he directly slashed the huge blue pillar of light with his axe. P.S. 10 chapters. Please vote and subscribe. End of this chapter. Chapter 712. The pillar of light lit up the entire sky. Wang Feng swung his axe at the blue light released by the demonic whale. The axe blade seemed to be able to destroy the void. Rings of blade chi rippled as it sliced the huge blue light into two. The blue light, which was powerful enough to destroy a mountain, was sliced into two just like that. If Tang San and the rest were still awake, they would have been stunned. Due to the force of the strike, Wang Feng's entire body was immersed in the destructive blue light. The terrifying pillar of light around his body seemed very small compared to the blue light, which was almost 20 meters thick. However, it prevented Wang Feng from being corroded by the blue light. He swung his axe at the demonic whale's attack. The axe blade was flowing with boundless energy as it slashed the demonic whale's back. Suddenly, the demonic whale let out a painful and furious roar. However, the patterns on its body started to light up. This was a sign that it was angry. A visible wound that was a few meters long appeared on the demonic whale's back. Perhaps it was nothing compared to the demonic whale's entire body. However, it was still a real injury to the demonic whale. Isn't it too strong? Wang Feng's pitch-black pupils reflected the several-meter-long wound. What's going on? My axe only managed to leave such a wound? The demonic whale was more than 200 meters long. A wound that was more than 10 meters long was equivalent to a small wound on his body. Even a rank 97 titled Dalu wouldn't be able to withstand his axe. However, he only managed to leave a small wound on the demonic whale's body. A million-year soul beast is still stronger than I expected. Wang Feng furrowed his brow. In fact, his wound was already very exaggerated. Earlier, Tang San's 8-spider spear barely managed to stab the demonic whale. At this moment, the whirlpool on the demonic whale's back started to spin again. A streak of purple light started to shake from the demonic whale's body. This streak of purple light contained an extremely destructive aura. Are you going crazy? Wang Feng laughed. I'm not that stupid. I can't be bothered to fight with you now. After he finished speaking, the 7 pairs of black wings on his back gently unfurled. His speed was even faster than the pure agility-type soul masters like Bai He. Wang Feng flew directly to Tang San's side and trapped him with the Xianming spike. With a thought, he wanted to control the Xianming spike to place Tang San on a board far away. At the same time, Wang Feng directly slashed his axe twice at the 100-meter-high tsunami wall in the distance. When it was chopped out, it was only a few meters long, but when it fell, it was already tens of meters long. A 10-meter-long hole appeared in the wall of water, and the mysterious underworld spike sent Tang San out. This tsunami contained extremely strong water pressure. If Tang San rushed out like this, even with his body, he would be crushed in an instant. The mysterious underworld spike would also be shattered. After sending Tang San away, the second terrifying attack of the demonic whale was directed at Wang Feng. The purple vortex formed a ray of light that swallowed everything. The moment Wang Feng chopped down with the axe, it submerged Wang Feng. Countless streaks of blood started to appear on Wang Feng's skin, leaving countless web-like wounds. Even the pillar of light formed by the Pango axe couldn't make Wang Feng completely immune to damage. It was as if he was in a purple world, and his entire body was being dismembered. However, the meteoric tear in the center of his heart played a huge role in this moment. Countless amounts of energy flowed through Wang Feng's body, quickly repairing his damaged body. Wang Feng's expression didn't change, and his heart was extremely calm. Even if he was in pain, he felt that it wasn't as intense as the pain he felt when Hong Lian tempered his body. The Pango axe chopped down 10 times in a row, and the strength of each chop was far greater than the previous one. Every chop was able to scatter the purple vortex a little. When the 10th chop was done, a hole was created in the purple vortex. He immediately retracted the Pango axe and used the soul-slaying spear to release the soul-devouring blood wings. He rushed out of the hole, but his entire body was covered in blood. Bye-bye. A strange light flashed in Wang Feng's eyes. The blood wings on his back flapped and emitted a dazzling blood-red light. This was the prelude to teleportation. He wasn't confident that he could really kill this nearly million-year-old soul beast. That was impossible. His original purpose was to let Tang San and the others leave here safely and lure the demon whale away. But at this moment, the demon whale sensed Wang Feng's intention and suddenly let out a fierce cry. The huge eyeball that was like the sun emitted a blue beam of light, which made the whole domain seem to be imprisoned and interrupted Wang Feng's teleportation in an instant. Wang Feng, Wang Feng's face darkened slightly, and then he quickly fled in another direction. This beast's domain seems to be something. It doesn't seem to have many skills, but each of them is extremely fatal to the enemy, especially to the enemies in the sky. Thinking of this, Wang Feng couldn't help but wonder, how did Tang San and the others escape in the original work? This demon whale can't escape even if it uses a little bit of strength, right? Unless it's a god. Wang Fengxin thought to himself, with the help of a god, Tang San and the others can escape. Otherwise, all of them will die. Wang Feng's figure flashed and quickly left in the distance, away from Tang San and the others. The demon whale behind him chased after Wang Feng angrily. Its speed in the sea was faster than Tang San's. But seeing that the demon whale was lured away by him, Wang Fengxin was relieved. The demon whale's domain could imprison him, but Wang Feng was not helpless. On the contrary, he did this to give the demon whale an illusion that he couldn't escape, so that the demon whale would chase him away from the sea. The more than 10 axes just now allowed Wang Feng to split the demon whale's real attack, but the demon whale was careless at the beginning and was hit by Wang Feng's axes, so it suffered some injuries. At this moment, after Wang Feng lured the demon whale away, Tang San landed on the deck, floating on the sea. At this time, the vast sea cosmic shield that had been withdrawn from his body suddenly emitted a violent halo and a wisp of sea blue aura. Then, countless halos gathered in midair. The sea blue mist merged into the halos and formed a human-shaped phantom. The phantom looked in the direction that the demon whale chased, and a strange expression appeared on its face. Interesting. After more than 20,000 years, such a person actually appeared in the mortal world. A rank 70 soul master can fight with a deep-sea demon whale that has completed its dragonization. Has the era in the mortal world changed? The phantom's voice was very old, and there was a hint of doubt in his tone. Then, he looked at Tang San and the other 7 figures. Finally, his eyes fell on Tang San, and he let out a long sigh. I hope this child won't let me down, but that human boy is really strange. It seems that I have to discuss with those old guys. Chapter 7:13. After he finished speaking, he turned into a streak of blue light and merged into the vast sea cosmic shield. The vast sea cosmic shield quickly turned into a huge triangular object that enveloped the 7 of them. A long tail of blue flames dragged behind it as it drifted into the distance. Wang Feng didn't know that this would happen after he lured the deep-sea demon whale away. He was now frantically trying to escape. The deep-sea demon whale was too fast in the sea. Furthermore, its aura was very strong. Coupled with the effect of its domain, it was difficult for Wang Feng to escape. Every time Wang Feng wanted to use instant shift to escape, the demonic whale's eyes would emit an intense blue light that would interrupt Wang Feng. The demonic whale's blue light was a spiritual skill that could forcefully lock onto someone. It was extremely rare. Hence, it was able to interrupt Wang Feng's instant shift. Most importantly, it was strengthened by the demonic whale's domain. However, Wang Feng did not intend to teleport away. He waited until he was a certain distance away. Wang Feng directly used the green lotus flag to break through the demonic whale's domain. However, the demonic whale was too strong. The green lotus flag's light could only maintain a 10-meter radius around Wang Feng. It couldn't completely negate the demonic whale's domain. After that, he quickly switched to his soul-devouring blood wings and used instant shift. Before the demonic whale's domain could cover him again, he suddenly left. Without the domain, the demonic whale's blue light only shook Wang Feng's spirit. It didn't interrupt Wang Feng's instant shift. Wang Feng disappeared from where he was and reappeared in the clouds tens of thousands of meters away. The soul-devouring blood wings was a soul skill that had been strengthened. Back then, the system had given him a 100,000-year soul ring as a reward for his 4th soul ring, which allowed him to teleport extremely far away. The demonic whale wouldn't be able to catch up to him in a short period of time. Cough, cough. Wang Feng coughed out a few mouthfuls of blood. He hurriedly swallowed it back. These are all treasures. I can't spit blood out. This deep-sea demon whale is the strongest being I've seen so far. Wang Feng was excited. I haven't fought Bibi Dan before, but she can't defeat this beast in the sea now. It seems like there are many strong beings in this world. When I reach rank 80, I should be able to defeat it. It's not bad that I escaped. Previously, Wang Feng had been a spy. After coming out of the extreme north, Wang Feng had never tested his true strength. Now that he had fought with this demon whale, Wang Feng had a clearer understanding of himself. Although he was very strong, he was still quite a distance away from these levels. The Pangu axe was the only guarantee that Wang Feng was able to surpass so many levels by relying on pure strength. There is no doubt that the 6 forms of the chaotic green lotus were very powerful. However, due to the huge difference in soul power, it was very difficult for it to be effective against soul beasts like the demon whale for a long time. It would also consume a huge amount of soul power. At this moment, Wang Feng suddenly felt a wave of exhaustion. The empty soul force in his body made Wang Feng feel extremely fatigued. Let's go to the Purple Pearl Island first and meet up with Ulaina and the others. I don't know how far he ran. Wang Fengxin's mind moved, and the Xianming spike reformed into a new flying sword, carrying Wang Feng into the distance. Right now, his soul power was almost depleted, and the soul power stored in the Black Lotus was almost used up. However, he still had a lot of spiritual power. He could only conserve his soul power and use the Xianming flying sword to bring him back. However, what made Wang Feng happy was that he could faintly feel the power of the meteoric tear surging out again because of the battle just now. Furthermore, he could feel that the power that surged out from the meteoric tear, in addition to his entire body, had also surged into the soul bones all over his body. This caused the soul bones to have more subtle connections. It seemed to be undergoing a change and fusion. Could it be that my soul bones are starting to form a special fusion? Something like a soul bone fusion skill? Wang Fengxin's mind moved. Little Three's soul bones were gradually fusing under the influence of the external soul bone and the 100,000-year soul bone. Furthermore, when Wang Feng rescued Tang San earlier, he sensed a little and realized that the soul bones in Tang San's body were fusing into one. It was as if they were being modified and fused by a special force. However, the soul bones in his body were all 100,000 year. It was very difficult for them to fuse. He didn't expect them to fuse under the power of the meteoric tear. According to Wang Feng's guess, the 6 soul bones in his body should fuse into true godly equipment in the end, right? He could feel that the 4 soul bones in his body were faintly more connected. It was also much smoother to use. Even the flying sword formed by the mysterious underworld spike had become much stronger. This is the biggest gain from this battle. Wang Feng nodded slightly. Apart from this, Wang Feng also felt that the power of the Pangu axe was a little more special. Wang Feng hadn't given the Pangu axe a soul ring yet. After the trip to the Sea God's Island, his strength should increase to over rank 70. He could try to add a soul ring to the Pangu axe. The cultivation of the Dark Angel was a little special. Wang Feng hadn't thought of adding a soul ring to the Dark Angel for the time being. The power of the blood traces and the original Sin domain were enough. However, logically speaking, the chaotic green lotus would awaken its martial soul true body at rank 70. He didn't know what the effects of the chaotic green lotus martial soul true body would be. It should be enough to use both forms, right? As long as he could use both forms of the chaotic green lotus, it would be of great help to Wang Feng in battle. Everything else aside, Wang Feng could use the black lotus to envelop himself and his other martial soul to maintain an undefeatable position. If he could use both forms just now, Wang Feng wouldn't have been hurt even if he used the black lotus light barrier. He could even break through the demonic whale's attack. He wouldn't have had to flee so pathetically. He could also use the cloud flag to break through the demonic whale's domain without being hurt at all. Although the cloud flag could break through the demonic whale's defenses, it would disappear if he changed to another form. The demonic whale's domain would be attached to him again. After this round of thinking, Wang Feng's future path became clearer. While Wang Feng was heading back to Purple Pearl Island. However, he didn't know that his battle had caused such a huge change in the sea. What's that? Hulaina and the others, who could already see the Purple Pearl Island, suddenly looked at the pillar of light in the distance. They were astonished. The pillar of light pierced through the clouds and brought up layers of clouds. It looked like the end of the world. What a strong soul power fluctuation! Old Shan's eyes flashed. That place is in the direction of the demonic whale ocean. It's hundreds of miles away, but the soul power fluctuation can travel so far. It's unbelievable. There should be a peerless expert fighting with the overlord of the sea. Hulaina and the others were stunned. Chapter 714. Could it be teacher? Yan's eyes lit up. But what's that pillar of light? Hulaina stared at it. There shouldn't be many people in the entire continent who could release such an aura. Could it be teacher? How strong is that overlord of the sea? Evil Moon muttered and shook his head. All right, stop guessing. Why don't you ask your teacher when he comes back? Old Shan laughed and pointed at a small island in front of them. There are people who came from the Sea God's Island on the Purple Pearl Island. You can ask them or ask them to bring you to the Sea God's Island. The three of them looked at the island in the distance. There was a huge rock in their hearts that couldn't be put down. What exactly happened in that sea area? Old Shan steered the boat into the harbor of Purplish Pearl Island. There were several soul cultivators with cold expressions and dressed in pirate clothing guarding the harbor. When they saw Old Shan, they seemed to recognize him and quickly walked over. After Old Shan talked with them for a while, Hulaina and the other two walked onto the island. These soul masters weren't strong. They were only around rank 30. Hulaina wasn't afraid. Old Shan mentioned that the strongest soul master among the Purple Pearl Pirates was only a soul sage, and there was only one of them. They weren't afraid. After watching Hulaina and the other two leave the island, Old Shan's eyes flashed. After that, he steered the boat and quickly left. When he came to the sea, he whistled. The whistling was loud and clear. After a while, the sea started to ripple. Following that, several gigantic sea spirit beasts surrounded the boat. Their snow-white dorsal fins were exposed on the surface of the water. Through the blue water, one could vaguely see a gigantic figure. If other sea spirit beasts were to see this, they would be shocked. It was the strongest sea soul beast in the sea, the demon's soul shark. The Sea God's Island this year is quite interesting. Old Shan stroked the head of a shark and whispered, "Go back and report to them. Let them test the strength of these people. Not everyone can enter the Sea God's Island." The shark shook its head like a human. It seemed to indicate that it understood. Then it sank to the bottom of the sea. Old Shan looked at the Purple Pearl Island in the distance. Then he looked in another direction, and a smile appeared on his face. A day later, Hulaina and the others saw the leader of the Purple Pearl Pirates on the Purple Pearl Island. She was a woman who wasn't even 30 years old. She was a soul sage. She was beautiful and alluring. After the three of them expressed their intentions, the Purple Pearl, she didn't make things difficult for them. After all, they were strong. Furthermore, Hulaina and the other two had given them a certain amount of gold soul coins, so the Purple Pearl captain generously agreed to their request. At the same time, they found a youth Ji Xiang who knew the Sea God's Island. The two of them had come from the Sea God's Island and had been chased out because they had failed the test. They were extremely familiar with the location of the Sea God's Island. Although Old Shan is a little strange and mysterious, he didn't lie to us. Hulaina said happily, "Now, we just have to wait for teacher to come back. Then we could go to the Sea God's Island." The three of them waited for another day, but they did not see anyone. Instead, they saw another group of people. Today, Hulaina and the others planned to ask Ji Xiang about the Sea God's Island. They didn't expect Ji Xiang to bring back several men and women. It's Tang San and the others. Hulaina said in a low voice, "Why are they here? What should we do?" Evil Moon frowned slightly. His Majesty the Pope said that if we meet Tang San, Wang Feng, and the others on the Sea God's Island, we must destroy their test. However, we haven't even reached the Sea God's Island yet, and we've already met a second time. Should we? Evil Moon's eyes flashed with a cold light. But they didn't take the opportunity to attack us when we were killing the wolf bandits. Yin frowned. Instead, they killed those wolf bandits with us. I can't do it now. Hearing that, Evil Moon nodded. Let's make up for it. Hulaina said coldly. They didn't attack us last time. We won't attack them this time either. Besides, Teacher isn't back yet. We'll talk about it when he comes back. Evil Moon and Yin agreed. In fact, for the three of them, or for the martial spirit palace, the biggest enemy was no longer Tang San. It was Wang Feng, who repeatedly destroyed the operations of the martial spirit palace and caused great losses to the martial spirit palace 5 years ago. Therefore, although the three of them hated Tang San and the others, they didn't hate them so much. Besides, Tang San and the others didn't attack them when they were killing the wolf bandits. Therefore, the three of them didn't want to take advantage of the situation. The unexpected appearance of Tang San and the others on the Purple Pearl Island made Hulaina, Evil Moon, and the others more vigilant. A few more days passed. Tang San and the others woke up slowly. In fact, except for Tang San, the others woke up the next day after Ji Xiang and the others picked them up from the seaside. Only Tang San's injury was the most serious. He was the last to wake up. You were picked up by the seaside by me and the other brothers on the island. We don't know what kind of battle you went through, but your injury is the most serious. You were in a coma for 3 days, but your body is very strong. You were seriously injured, but you can recover in such a short time. Ji Xiang was an ordinary-looking young man, but he had a calm temperament and spoke unhurriedly. Tang San was a little silent. His mind was a little dizzy, but he could still remember the situation at that time. In his memory, he seemed to have jumped on the back of the demon whale and tried to absorb its energy, but he definitely couldn't survive. There were several others. In the end, the demon whale launched a more terrible attack. He had no way to protect them who were in a coma. The other 7 should be your partners, right? They're all awake, waiting for you on the other side. Ji Xiang looked at Tang San and said with a smile, but it seems that my herbs have some effect. Tang San glanced at the young man and then looked at the medicine bowl beside the bed. He got up and said, "Thank you. You know medicine?" The young man nodded. Tang San stood up and chatted for a while. After waiting for Ji Xiang to leave, he suddenly released Xiao Wu from his 100 treasures pouch. At the same time, his 6th soul ring lit up, and there was a wisp of soul consciousness hidden inside. Xiao Wu, do you know what happened at that time? Tang San looked at Xiao Wu, who had turned into a pink figure in the soul ring, and asked with a frown. In that situation, it was impossible for me and the others to survive. Chapter 715. Elder brother, you're still talking about it. You idiot. Why didn't you let me out? That wisp of spiritual consciousness suddenly entered Xiao Wu's body. In an instant, that person's body was like a puppet that had gained consciousness and pounced towards Tang San. Although Xiao Wu could not be revived for the time being, when Tang San had subdued the 4 great single-element sects, Xiao Wu, who was originally just a little rabbit, had consumed an immortal herb given to her by the White Crane. She had turned into a real human, but she had no consciousness. Xiao Wu's spirit was hidden in her soul ring. She couldn't leave her soul ring for too long. I don't know either, Xiao Wu wiped her tears. I only sensed a very strong aura. After that, you fainted. I don't know anything else. After hearing this, Tang San was stunned. After that, he heaved a long sigh. He sensed the changes in his body and didn't know what to say. He used the 8-spider spear to absorb a small portion of the demon whale's energy. It was a blessing in disguise. Tang San walked out of the wooden house and saw the other 7 people. The 9 of them looked at each other. They felt as if they had been separated for a lifetime. They asked each other about their own situations. After that, they were confused about what happened that day. I've asked, Oscar said softly. Everyone on the island said that they saw an intense pillar of light that shot into the sky. It exudes an extremely powerful soul force fluctuation, and the location is the Demon Whale Sea region. The timing also matches. This means that after we lost consciousness that day, a peerless powerhouse must have appeared and fought with the demon whale, allowing us to survive. After he finished speaking, Oscar laughed bitterly. Little San, when we heard this news, We thought it was a fantasy. Tang San was silent. To be able to fight with such a beast, could it be one of the 3 exceptional Douluo that Elder Chen Xian told us about? Ma Hongjun scratched his head and said, "Didn't they say that there's a rank 99 exceptional Douluo on the Sea God's Island? Could it be her?" Before they went out to sea, the Sword Douluo had told them about the top 3 title Douluo on the continent. Each of them was unbelievably strong. There was one in the Martial Soul Hall, one in the Sea God's Island, and one in the Clear Sky sect. That's not possible. Dai Mubai thought for a moment. Didn't Master say that people from the Sea God's Island wouldn't leave? Unless they were expelled. Oh, that Ji Xiang seemed to be from the Sea God's Island. He say he was expelled from the Sea God's Island because he didn't pass the test there. We've heard. There's also a piece of Dai Mubai paused for a moment before continuing. The 3 members of the Golden Generation are also on the island. Moreover, they seem to be heading to the Sea God's Island as well. Tang San frowned when he heard this. However, they should have discovered us as well. Dai Mubai continued, because Ji Xiang said that when we were rescued by Ji Xiang, the 3 of them came looking for Ji Xiang. This means that they definitely saw us, but didn't attack us. Tang San of the Tang, maybe it's because we didn't attack them when we were killing the wolf bandits. They didn't attack us either. Ma Hongjun pursed his lips. The 3 from the Golden Generation have some morals. Other than the Pope, I think most of the people from the Martial Soul Hall aren't bad people. Everyone nodded involuntarily. Let's rest for 2 days before we go to the Sea God's Island. Tang San pondered for a moment. I still need a few days to recover from my injuries. As for the Golden Generation, we don't have to care about them. As long as they don't mess around, we'll pretend they don't exist. After the 9 of them finished their discussion, they discussed the situation on Purple Pearl Island. At this moment, Wang Feng arrived at Purple Pearl Island. It was too far away. He had lured the devil whale away in the opposite direction and had even teleported a long distance. Furthermore, he had run out of soul power and was quite tired. He hadn't replenished his soul power yet, so he could only rest as he rushed over. Because of the battle, his soul power had increased by 1 rank, reaching rank 68. When he reached rank 69, Wang Feng's innate 5-element flags should be able to fully materialize, and his 6th soul skill would also appear. When he arrived at Purple Pearl Island, there were no accidents because Ulaina had already told the pirates on the island in advance. "Teacher, you're finally back." When Hulaina and the other 2 saw Wang Feng, they were extremely excited. For the past few days, the 3 of them had been on tenterhooks, afraid that something had happened to Wang Feng, especially Hulaina, who had been praying every day. At this moment, seeing Wang Feng return safely, she couldn't help but rush over and hug him. Evil Moon and Yin both looked down as if they didn't see anything. It wasn't until she heard Wang Feng cough that Hulaina blushed and stood back in embarrassment. How was the situation on the island? Wang Feng glanced at the 3 of them and asked calmly. The 3 of them hurriedly told Wang Feng the situation and news they had heard. They also told him about seeing Tang San and the others on the island. "Not bad," Wang Feng muttered. "Since I'm back, let's set off for Sea God's Island." Hulaina nodded and suddenly asked, "Teacher, what happened to you in the Demon Whale Sea that day?" Hearing this, the other 2 looked at Wang Feng curiously. Even though a few days had passed, the 3 of them were still very curious about the situation that day. Not to mention seeing Wang Feng return safely at this moment. That day, Wang Fengxin's heart moved, and his tone suddenly became a little more dignified. I didn't expect that there would be such a powerful, peerless figure in this world. Hearing this, the 3 of their expressions changed slightly. Even with the Pope's pride, for him to say such words, it seems that something shocking must have happened. At this moment, Lord Popetiff's voice was low, as if he had returned to the scene at that time. When I went there, the closer I got to the center of the sea, the more I could feel the power of the Overlord of the Sea. According to my estimation, that demon whale has at least 500,000 years of cultivation, maybe 80 or 90 years. Because I have never seen such a powerful soul beast, I can't make an accurate judgment. Hearing this, the 3 of them were shocked, and they couldn't help but feel shocked. Was there really such a soul beast among the 100,000-year soul beasts? The sea was really vast and unpredictable, and there was actually such a level of existence. The three of them pricked up their ears and listened quietly like babies listening to a story. This beast was at least 200 meters long. With a gentle move, it could overturn the sea and set off a monstrous tsunami. With a light slap of its tail, millions of arrows rained down. Every move had the power to turn the sea upside down. Wang Feng said slowly, "Even I know that I can't defeat such a soul beast. Maybe with the help of the Pope and the head consecrator, I can defeat it." However, there was another peerless figure fighting with such a soul beast at that time. Chapter 7:16. The pillar of light you saw was emitted by this peerless figure. He fought against such a monster with his strength alone. With a divine weapon in his hand, he was like a god. With a casual move, he heavily injured the demon whale. Hearing this, the three of them were shocked again. Was there such a powerful, peerless figure? With the help of the Pope and Lord Pope Tiff, there was a possibility that they could defeat the demon whale. But it was injured by a casual move? The man and the beast exchanged more than 10 moves, but there was no clear winner. Wang Feng continued, but later, that peerless figure might have felt that it was rather boring, so he left. The demonic whale then chased after him. I also chased after it, so I was delayed for a few days. What happened in the end? Hulaina asked carefully. In the end? In the end, the demon whale was scared and fled, Wang Feng said. The three of them, hearing this, the three of them were amazed. They couldn't believe that there was such a terrifying existence in this world apart from His Majesty, the Pope, and the High Priest. It was no wonder that Lord Popetiff couldn't help but praise this peerless figure. The three of them felt refreshed. Nayan scratched his head and asked, "Teacher, did you see what this peerless figure looked like? What did he look like?" Wang Feng thought for a moment and said, "His charm was unparalleled. His appearance was not inferior to mine." Hearing this, Hulaina couldn't help but gasp. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Lord Popetiff's appearance could topple the world. As long as he took off his mask, Hulaina would think without hesitation that even the leader of the Purple Pearl Pirates, who only liked women, would immediately kneel at Lord Popetiff's feet. She didn't expect that this peerless figure's appearance was not inferior to Lord Popetiff's. Thinking of this, Hulaina couldn't help but glance at Lord Popetiff. It was rare to see a powerhouse like Lord Popetiff who dared to directly admit his opponent's strength and appearance. But this was where Lord Popetiff's charm lay. "Okay, that's all for today. Get ready, we're going to the Sea God's Island." Wang Feng waved his hand. The three of them gathered their thoughts and went back to make preparations while recalling what Popetiff had said today. The next day, the three of them headed to the Sea God's Island. However, to their surprise, Tang San and his men had already set off 2 days in advance. Wang Feng didn't think much of it. After discussing with the Purple Pearl Pirates, he sent Ji Xiang to bring the 4 of them to Sea God's Island. "I've already sent Master and the others away a few days ago. They should have arrived by now." On the deck, Ji Xiang's expression was quite serious as she said, "I hope you can all arrive safely." "Master? Who did you take as your master?" Hulaina asked curiously. "Who is it among the 9? Tang San is my master." "I never thought that he would also know medicine, and his medical skills are above mine. Furthermore, my talent is not good, and he is actually willing to accept me as his disciple. Even our Lord Purple Pearl was subdued by Master," Ji Xiang said somewhat excitedly. "He is truly a very powerful person." The three of them couldn't help but twitch their lips when they heard this. On the other hand, Wang Fengxin was thinking, is this also part of the original story? However, Ji Xiang's talent is indeed very poor. I don't know why little 3 wants to accept her as a disciple. Perhaps this is fate. It's too wonderful for words. We can only send you to the outside of Sea God's Island. There are definitely great white demon soul sharks nearby. It will be very dangerous for us if we get close. Ji Xiang looked into the distance. "I'm sure you've heard of these island guardian beasts when you came. There are over 100 of them, and one of them is a 100,000-year one. They are very dangerous. Sea God's Island actually doesn't welcome soul masters from land, so you have to think carefully. Old Shan had said something similar before, so Hulaina and the others were already mentally prepared. Very quickly, with Ji Xiang as their guide, they reached the vicinity of Sea God's Island in less than 2 days. Ji Xiang then waved goodbye to the four of them. After all, they were just employees, and the Purple Pearl Pirates were considered trustworthy. With Wang Feng's eyesight, he could clearly see a small island in the distance. However, it was many times bigger than Purple Pearl Island. With the speed of a normal small boat, they would need around 2 to 3 hours to reach it. Wang Feng didn't sit on the small boat that Ji Xiang gave him. Instead, he rode on the mysterious underworld flying sword and brought the three of them towards Sea God's Island. The great white demon soul sharks were flying in the sky. There was no way to attack them, right? But very quickly, Wang Feng realized that this was a mistake. Before the flying sword had even traveled for half an hour, densely packed dorsal fins appeared on the surface of the sea in front of them. It looked abnormally terrifying. Following that, Wang Feng felt a resistance. This resistance didn't come from below, but from Sea God's Island. Near Sea God's Island, there might be a special domain that existed. Wang Fengxin was shocked. He knew that this was most likely the Massacre God's domain in the City of Massacre. There was also a special restriction in the Rakshasa Secret Realm. In the Rakshasa Secret Realm, especially the Rakshasa Temple, one couldn't even use their soul power once they entered. Near Sea God's Island, there was a similar special domain that restricted soul masters who could fly from entering Sea God's Island. Wang Feng felt that his spiritual power was blocked, and he could only lower the mysterious underworld flying sword slowly. As long as the flying sword was more than 10 meters high, Wang Feng felt that his spiritual power was extremely restricted. It was difficult for him to circulate his soul power. Perhaps only existences at the level of the Thousand Dao stream could be immune to it. Wang Feng slowly released the original Sin domain. He looked at the densely packed dorsal fins around him. These dorsal fins were obviously the great white demon soul sharks. Teacher, look, Hulaina and the other two were already on their guard. At this moment, they felt that they were surrounded by these great white demon soul sharks, and their hearts couldn't help but tremble. There were too many. Among them, there were quite a number of 10,000-year soul masters. In the center at the front, there was a gigantic great white demon soul shark that was at least 20 meters long, that was completely white. At this moment, it was using its huge eyes to stare at the four of them coldly. The situation instantly fell into an extremely dangerous situation. On the surface of the sea, there were so many great white demon soul sharks. No matter how many titled Douluo there were, they wouldn't be able to avoid them, especially that 100,000-year great white demon soul shark. Although it wasn't their first time facing a 100,000-year soul beast, this great white demon soul shark gave them an extremely strong feeling. It was even stronger than the five-headed stellar dragon and the headless general in the great Star Doe forest. At this moment, Wang Feng's original Sin domain covered 100 meters. Although some of the weaker great white demon soul sharks didn't dare to come close, many of the 10,000-year great white demon soul sharks were restless. Teacher, what should we do? Large beads of sweat appeared on Hulaina and the other two's foreheads. P.S. There are still a few chapters left. Looking at the computer for a long time, my eyes are a little sore. Chapter 717. They had heard old Shan, Ji Xiang, and the others talk about these great white demon sharks. But hearing about them and seeing them with their own eyes were two different things. Especially in the sea, the sense of crisis was like suddenly entering a room full of spikes. Then they looked at the walls around them that were slowly closing in on them. The sea was more vast than the land, and the powerful soul beasts that were born in it had a natural geographical advantage. Normal soul masters could not resist them. The three of them leaned on Wang Feng's back and looked at Poketiff. Wang Feng was also looking at the great white demon sharks. Compared to the three of them, he could feel it more clearly. These great white demon sharks did not have much killing intent. They just wanted to stop them from getting close to the Sea God's Island. This was especially true for the 100,000-year soul beast. Although it was looking at them coldly, if it really wanted to attack them, it would have already commanded the sharks to attack them. It would not just surround them. Don't reveal your martial soul, Wang Feng said slowly. Revealing your martial soul is a declaration of war to him. The three of them were stunned. They wanted to possess their martial souls, but they immediately retracted their soul power. Then, Wang Feng retracted his domain. Without his domain, the great white demon shark's cold aura became more intense, causing the surrounding temperature to drop by a few degrees. The three of them did not dare to say anything. They did not know what Pope Diff wanted to do. They could not fight it head-on. Wang Feng naturally didn't have the confidence to fight against so many soul cultivators. Killing that 100,000-year-old great white demon shark in such a short amount of time wasn't very realistic even with his strength as the Pope, let alone a 10,000-year-old great white demon shark. Even if it was a 1,000-year great white demon shark, it was comparable to a 10,000-year soul beast. The great white demon shark was not an ordinary aquatic soul beast. It was a powerful aquatic soul beast. Wang Feng's spiritual power was like a stream. It gently rippled and stimulated his aura, spreading it in all directions. Wang Feng's aura was extremely pure and in harmony with nature. Even soul beasts would be affected by it. Back in the land of the extreme north, before he had even formed the dustless glass body, he was able to subdue 4 underlings. In addition to his powerful strength, part of the influence of this aura was also due to the influence of this aura, not to mention now that he had a real dustless glass body. However, from another perspective, Wang Feng's flesh and blood were extremely beneficial to these soul beasts. If it was an extremely bloodthirsty soul beast, then, however, these great demon soul sharks were the guardian soul beasts of the sea god's island, and they weren't extremely bloodthirsty sea soul beasts. After sensing Wang Feng's aura, many of the great white sharks calmed down a little. The coldness in his eyes had also lessened significantly. The 100,000-year-old great white demon soul shark looked surprised. It seemed to be curious as to why it felt so close to this person. But just based on this, you wanted to give way? That was impossible. It let out a low roar, and countless great white sharks came closer to Wang Feng, forcing the 4 of them to retreat. They couldn't fly now, and Wang Feng's flying sword was only a few meters above the sea level. These great white sharks could easily attack them with a leap. Wang Feng frowned slightly. If he attacked these great white demon soul sharks, he would definitely be attacked by them. Attacking them was definitely not an option. As if thinking of something, Wang Feng's soul power circulated in his palm, and a blue flag appeared in his hand. Wang Feng wasn't sure about the name of this flag, because according to various myths and legends, this flag didn't have a specific name. Wang Feng remembered that it was called the Jinwu Eagle flag, and it was recorded in Journey to the West. It was a magic treasure that mainly focused on water. The flag looked blue, but it was slightly black. The cloud patterns on it were much darker than the blue, and it looked like the shape of waves. Soul power was slowly injected into it, and suddenly, the blue flag emitted a strong light that enveloped the 3 of them. In a split second, the surrounding waves suddenly calmed down. Wang Feng held the blue flag and waved it lightly. In a split second, monstrous waves surged up. While it was much weaker than the demonic whale, it was still very exaggerated. Wang Feng could vaguely sense that he was able to control all the seawater within the area covered by the flag. Even the soul beasts within the flag couldn't shake the waves created by the blue flag. In a split second, the waves that were dozens of meters tall split into 2, as if a broad road had been opened. The seawater below was directly hollowed out to a depth of dozens of meters. Hundreds of great white demon soul sharks swam on both sides, as if they were completely isolated. Wang Feng controlled the Netherism flying sword and directly flew towards the sea god's island through the tunnel in the air. Those great white demon soul sharks jumped out from the 2 rows of waves to stop Wang Feng, but they were directly pushed back by the rolling waves. The 100,000-year great white demon soul shark at the front looked at the blue flag in Wang Feng's hand with some shock and didn't move. Hulaina and the other two on the flying sword were also stunned. They didn't think that Popediff actually had this kind of ability. However, Wang Feng didn't feel very good. This blue flag consumed the same amount of spiritual power as the cloud flag, and the consumption was very exaggerated. The cloud flag was used to store soul beasts, and even 100,000-year soul beasts could be stored inside. And although this blue flag had the ability to control water, the consumption of spiritual power was also very exaggerated. This kind of water control wasn't just limited to water control. It could even affect and control the soul beasts in the water to a certain extent. The seawater in the area was all under Wang Feng's control, which was why he was able to do this. Otherwise, those great white demon soul sharks would have already jumped out. They wouldn't be controlled by the water like now, making it difficult for them to jump out. Only that 100,000-year great white demon soul shark could possibly attack. However, this 100,000-year great white demon soul shark didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. Wang Feng wasn't afraid. With his current space, he could move dozens of meters below. Controlling the mysterious dark flying sword, he could easily dodge the attacks of the great white demon soul sharks. Very quickly, Wang Feng passed through the group of great white demon soul sharks. These great white demon soul sharks could only watch as Wang Feng passed through right under their noses. Hulaina and the other two were agitated, excited, and a little curious. Towards the end, they were even leisurely looking at the various soul beasts in the two rows of waves. This kind of situation was roughly similar to when Wang Feng entered the aquarium's passageway and looked at the various ocean scenes around him. However, the passageway formed by this blue flag was even larger and more spacious. Chapter 718. Wow, brother, look at that great white shark. It's so pretty. Hulaina pointed at the largest great white shark in front of them and whispered, "It's as white as snow. I want to touch it." The great white shark, Wang Feng. However, Hulaina spoke very softly. She was probably afraid of angering these great white sharks. He had heard from Old Shan that these great white sharks were the mounts of the sea god. They were not simple creatures to be the mounts of the sea god. Wang Feng also felt that these great white sharks were not bad. However, if he really wanted to touch them, he could forget about it. If they really fought, these great white sharks would be very troublesome. Fortunately, Wang Feng was pleasantly surprised by the blue flag. He could even sense that these great white sharks were a little afraid of the blue flag in his hand. After leaving this group of great white sharks, they were only a few hundred meters away from the sea god's island. Their flying swords landed safely on the shore of the sea god's island. The moment they stepped onto the island, the four of them felt a comfortable and joyful feeling in their limbs. The energy here was very pure. It was like the pure, evil energy in the Rakshasa secret realm. However, it was neither evil energy nor light energy here. Instead, it was a gentle energy that made one feel comfortable. As far as the eye could see, there was a lush forest with many rare plants growing in an orderly manner. Some of them were plants that Wang Feng had not seen in the Great Stardow Forest. There were all kinds of unknown flowers and plants. Even though they were so far away, they could still smell a delicate fragrance. A gust of wind blew past the beach. It smelled like the ocean. It was a refreshing smell that made one want to take in deep breaths. Here, one could feel a gentle and comfortable feeling at almost every moment. In the distance, they could see the boundless ocean. When they looked up, they could see the blue sky and white clouds. Relying on this enormous sea god's island, they felt like they were in a world without any impurities. What a beautiful place, Hulaina muttered to herself. Beautiful scenery could always inspire one to look forward to the future. At this moment, Hulaina thought of many things. She even thought of a name. It was only when Wang Feng spoke to remind her that she suddenly came to her senses. She hurriedly followed him while blushing slightly. As they walked, Wang Feng discovered that the sea god's island was similar to the Rakshasa secret realm. There was a mysterious energy on the island that blocked the senses of soul masters. Even with Wang Feng's spiritual power, he couldn't sense it from a distance, and there was an extremely strong rebound. Presumably, there was some kind of restriction in the unseen world. Seeing this, Wang Feng did not intend to use his mental power to sense it. The Sea God's Island seemed to be extremely huge. Just the shore alone stretched as far as the eye could see. The three of them walked into the forest. After walking for about an hour, they met three people. What day is it today? Another group of people actually came to our Sea God's Island. The three of them were wearing yellow robes that seemed to be specially made. The leader was a man in his 30s. His face didn't look very surprised, but his expression was still a little repulsed. Hello. We're here because of your reputation. We want to participate in the Sea God's Island's test and join the Sea God's Island. Hulaina stepped forward and said politely. Other than passing the test to join the Sea God's Island, they also wanted to understand the situation on the Sea God's Island. Naturally, they couldn't act recklessly. The man laughed and said, "You foreign soul masters really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Forget it. I won't talk to you anymore. Anyway, there was a group of people just now. The few of you won't make a difference. From the looks of it, you guys rushed here with great difficulty. You even passed through the territory of the great white demon sharks. I'm sure you have some confidence in yourselves. Come with me." The man seemed to know a lot about the great white demon sharks outside. He didn't try to dissuade them. In fact, the soul masters that could enter the Sea God's Island from the outside were more or less strong. Not to mention how dangerous the sea was, just the great white demon soul sharks outside was actually a very severe test. Without special methods, it wasn't easy to enter the Sea God's Island. Therefore, the soul masters of the Sea God's Island didn't chase the four of them away. They were probably experienced. It should be Shrek's 7 monsters, right? The three of them followed behind the man. As they walked forward, they talked about the other group of people that the man mentioned. Wang Feng sensed them slightly. The three of them should be soul masters patrolling the Sea God's Island. They weren't very strong, but their soul power was still above rank 40. You foreign soul masters, let me tell you the rules of the Sea God's Island. The most important thing is that you can't do anything on the Sea God's Island. Otherwise, you'll be severely punished. The man's tone was a little strict. Although the Sea God's Island is very big, if you dare to hurt anyone on the Sea God's Island, our enforcement team will immediately arrest you. The three patrolling members of the Sea God's Island weren't very strong. They were only around rank 40. But when they said this, they were full of confidence. The Sea God's Island had given them confidence. No one dared to do anything here. Wang Feng thought for a moment. How many titled Dalu are there on the Sea God's Island? It should be quite a few. Compared to the Rakshasa Secret Realm, there are only 4. However, the Moro clan in the Rakshasa Secret Realm had special abilities. Soul masters from the Moro clan were born immune to physical attacks. They wouldn't be at a disadvantage against any titled Dalu. In addition, the Rakshasa Secret Realm was filled with endless evil energy. The Moro clan was very strong. Hulaina and the other two nodded. They wouldn't violate the rules of the Sea God's Island. Not long after, the three of them led Wang Feng and the rest out of the forest. It was a feeling of enlightenment. There was a huge lake in front of them. It was a very regular circle. The lake was at least 1,000 meters in diameter. There was a triangular platform in the center. On the platform was a stone pillar that was several meters tall. The stone pillar was very regular, and there were countless mysterious ancient words and symbols carved on it. Streaks of energy were released from the stone pillar, causing the lake water around them to ripple. At the same time, Wang Feng saw Tang San and the rest. They seemed to have just arrived. Didn't they arrive 2 days earlier than us? Evil Moon was surprised. Why are they only here now? Wang Feng thought for a moment. It shouldn't have been so smooth. After all, he had a flying sword and a blue flag. He had even dealt with the great white demon shark and entered the Sea God's Island. The entire process didn't take long. All right, you guys wait here. I'll report to the Seahorse Holy Pillar first. The yellow-robed man instructed. The seahorse holy pillar was the middle-aged man in black who was standing below the stone pillar. Chapter 719. This is the sea ocean. That's the seahorse holy pillar. The other two men explained. The sea god's island has the 7 holy pillars. All of them have the power of the sea god and have passed the sea god's 6th black test. On the other hand, the holy pillar can be used to test soul masters. Different tests represent the expectations that the sea god has for the participants. The 7 holy pillars. Wang Fengxian's heart skipped a beat. Normally, those who passed the god's test were very powerful, titled Douluo, but their soul power ranks shouldn't be high enough. Wang Feng's eyes narrowed. Although he didn't use his senses, he could guess a little from their auras. The 7 holy pillars meant 7 titled Douluo. Wang Feng couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. The sea god's island was very powerful. The Luosha secret realm was only half complete. But logically speaking, Wang Feng felt that the titled Douluo of the Moro clan were stronger. Even in the outside world, they were stronger, and their average soul power ranks were higher. Even the weakest one was around rank 94. Although the ghost Douluo was completely suppressed by Wang Feng's karmic fire, it was very difficult for other titled Douluo to deal with. Although titled Douluo seemed to be only rank 10, but there were many subdivisions among them. For example, these titled Douluo who passed the god's test were far stronger than their peers because they had a part of the sea god's power. Even a little bit of it was enough. At this moment, the man who went to report said, "You're all soul masters. If you want to enter the holy pillar, you have to pass the sea first. You're the same as the 9 people before you. But the 9 of them have already passed the seahorse holy pillar's test." As he spoke, the man pointed at Tang San and the others in the distance. At this moment, the seahorse Doll also saw the 4 of them. At the same time, Tang San and the others who had just passed the seahorse holy pillar's test also saw Wang Feng and the others. They really came to the sea god's island. Dai Mubai whispered. After a long and arduous journey through the sea, they were finally able to cross the swarm of great white demon sharks with the help of Tang San's vast sea heaven and earth shroud. They were barely able to reach the sea god's island safely, but they were still knocked out for half a day before waking up. It seems like we went out to sea earlier than them. Furthermore, without Xiao San and disciple Ji Xiong, they shouldn't have been able to come to the sea god's island. Oscar pondered for a moment before he said, in other words, it would take at least 2 days for them to arrive at the sea god's island. They're 2 days slower than us. How did they arrive at the sea god's island so quickly? Those great white demon soul sharks don't seem to be that simple, right? Oscar's heart palpitated at the thought. Have you forgotten that Pope Diffin White is among them? Tang San's eyes fell on the black figure. The 4 of them had disguised themselves. Although it wasn't easy to recognize them, that was only for outsiders. They were all very familiar with each other. Looks like you 2 know each other. The seahorse Douluo, who was also dressed in black, looked at the 9 of them in astonishment. The strength and talent of these 9 people were extraordinary. All these years on the sea god's island, he had never seen anyone who could reach such a level at such a young age. 6 of them were in their 20s, and they were all soul emperors. It was unbelievable. The other 3 girls were more special, but they were also very strong, especially the food-type soul master with the white beer martial soul. Yes, esteemed seahorse Doll, these 4 can be considered our opponents. Ma Hongjun snorted coldly. The seahorse Douluo was astonished when he heard this. The strength and talent of these 9 people had exceeded his expectations. How could they be their opponents? Ma Hongjun didn't say much. He didn't say that Hu Laina and the others were from the Martial Soul Hall. This was because he had no evidence. The Martial Soul Hall had invaded the Sea God's island before. If they knew that the other party was from the Martial Soul Hall, they might have chased them off the island. However, they didn't have any evidence. The people on the Sea God's island didn't go out. They didn't know anything about the outside world. If they couldn't produce any evidence to prove that the other party was from the Martial Soul Hall, the Seahorse Doll might think that they were slandering them. If that happened, the Seahorse Doll would think that they were slandering them. it wouldn't be worth it. Therefore, they might as well say that they were their opponents. At this moment, the seahorse Douluo's eyes flashed. He stomped his foot. In a split second, 8 water pillars suddenly rose from the lake in all directions. Each water pillar was at least 30 meters tall. The 8 water pillars intertwined and formed a huge waterfall on the only path that led to the holy pillar. It was only a few meters wide. From time to time, one could see many aquatic soul beasts leaping through the waterfall. When he saw this, the man who had led Wang Feng here said, "The test is to pass. You'll be able to see the seahorse holy pillar after you pass through this waterfall. Otherwise, please leave. Take note that flying is prohibited above this waterfall. You can only rely on your own strength to pass through this waterfall." Hulaina furrowed her brows as she looked at the waterfall. It was a torrent formed by the collision of 4 pillars of water, and the force of the impact was extremely terrifying. If a normal soul master wasn't a soul beast of the sea, the slightest carelessness would have caused all of their bones to fall apart. "You're a team. Discuss this among yourselves," Wang Feng said. If they couldn't even pass this test, they would have wasted their time by staying by his side. If they stayed by his side, it was fine. Their intelligence should be raised, right? Hulaina and the other 2 nodded. After about a minute, the 3 of them came up with a plan. Among them, Hulaina was the one who played the most important role. This was because she was a spiritual type, control type soul master. However, there was nothing they could do about it. Furthermore, Hulaina was the first to make a move. 6 soul rings lit up from her body. After the beautiful heavenly fox was attached to her body, she leaped into the air. The light in her eyes was released towards the aquatic soul beasts in the torrent. The pink fog dispersed. Under this pink fog, the aquatic soul beasts suddenly surged towards her. Most of these soul beasts were around 1,000 years old. There were very few 10,000-year soul beasts. At this moment, they lined up in front of Hulaina. It was as if they were waiting for her to choose. Hulaina giggled. She was extremely charming, and even these soul beasts were not immune to her charms. The pink light in her eyes and the soul bone in her skull allowed her to control these soul beasts in an instant. Following this, Hulaina jumped into 3 seahorses, 3 dolphins, and 2 sea crabs. As every torrent was in the opposite direction, it was difficult for her to cross it with just 1 soul beast. Under Hulaina's command, the 8 sea beasts came to a stop in the middle of the 8 pillars of water. After that, she gently leapt into the air and stepped on one of the soul beast bodies. He stepped on the body of the 8th sea spirit beast and leaped over with ease. It was quite elegant. Chapter 720. What a powerful control-type soul emperor. The seahorse Douluo's eyes lit up. She's a fox-type spirit control-type soul master. Her martial soul must have mutated, and there must be something strange about it. She shouldn't have been able to make the aquatic soul beasts so obedient just by using her spiritual power. She shouldn't have been able to make them understand her orders so quickly. Tang San and the others were also surprised. They didn't expect Hulaina to pass through it so easily. After hearing the seahorse Douluo's words, they were also a little confused. In fact, it was impossible to make the aquatic soul beast do this with just her charm alone. However, Hulaina had Star's consciousness in her skull. Star's consciousness had always been stable. Wang Feng would often sense it. Using Star's consciousness to give orders, it was easy to communicate with her. Next was Evil Moon. Evil Moon had been by Wang Feng's side for a long time and had always wanted to use the mysterious underworld flying sword like Wang Feng did. However, it was difficult for Evil Moon to do so. Sometimes, Wang Feng thought about it. Without the front secret word, his spiritual power wouldn't have improved so much. He couldn't use his spiritual power to control the flying sword. Although Evil Moon's spiritual power had improved a lot, he still couldn't do it. However, he could still use his soul power to control the flying sword. Evil Moon did well in this aspect. Along the way, Wang Feng had given them a lot of burden, which allowed their control of their soul power to improve rapidly. After Evil Moon released 2 moon blades, he combined them into a disc and used his soul power to control it to land in the torrent. After that, he stepped on the disc formed by the moon blades and glided through the 8 water pillars by surfing. Not bad. The seahorse Douluo nodded slightly. Evil Moon was about 28 or 29 years old. To be able to have such strength, his talent was extraordinary. In fact, the 3 of them were able to become the golden generation of the Martial Soul Hall. They had killed many young soul masters in the Martial Soul Hall. How could their talent be bad? His control of his soul power is also very exquisite. The seahorse Douluo had a look of admiration on his face. Tang San and the others were also a little surprised. The last one was Yan. Yan's method was very simple and violent. It was really very violent. He directly used martial soul possession and then gave himself a buff. His whole body was covered in a fiery red light, and then he walked the 500 meters step by step. No matter how the torrent attacked, Yin remained motionless. This was the simplest and most direct way to test a person's strength. Although he didn't use any tricks, Wang Feng admired him. Yan's martial spirit was somewhat similar to Zhang Xiaoyan's martial spirit. They were both extremely powerful beast martial spirits. This method was actually the most correct one. There was the meaning of great skill appearing to be clumsy. With his tyrannical soul power, domineering body, and blazing martial soul, he directly walked over. All the water that hit him evaporated. It was a display of his tyrannical strength. The strength of these 3 people seems to have improved a lot in the past 5 years. Ma Hongjun looked at Yan. This guy's martial soul is not much weaker than mine. His soul power rank is even higher than Little Three's. Tang San was currently level 67, probably not even level 68 yet. However, 5 years ago, Tang San and the others were 9 ranks lower than this golden generation. On average, each of them had improved by at least 20 ranks. In comparison, Hulaina and the others had only improved by 10 ranks. Since when are there so many talented soul masters in the outside world? The seahorse Douluo's eyes were filled with admiration and sighed. What about the last one? Hearing this, Tang San and the others suddenly fell silent. Hulaina and the other 2 stood quietly in a row, waiting like obedient children. Looking at all of you, the last one seems to be a little special. The seahorse Douluo's gaze landed on Wang Feng, and there was a hint of curiosity in his eyes. A little. Ma Hongjun felt a little dry in his mouth. Hearing this, the seahorse Douluo smiled. At this moment, Wang Feng moved. Logically speaking, this was the seahorse Douluo's test. Even if the seahorse Douluo had been bestowed with the seahorse Douluo's godly strength, it wouldn't be difficult for Wang Feng to beat him up. Not to mention the test he had given her. Sword come. Wang Feng stood where he was and let out a low roar. In an instant, the countless sharp blades formed a gigantic sword in the air. Slash! Wang Feng's mind moved, and the huge treasure sword slashed towards the torrents formed by the 8 angel water pillars. The 7 murders sword plays, sword of the 7 murders, sword plays, sword severing the southern mountain. As the cold light shone, all the water pillars turned into raindrops that filled the sky. It directly broke the 8 water pillars formed by the seahorse Douluo's soul power. Wang Feng slowly walked over from the path that was filled with rain. Naturally, the raindrops were swept away by his soul power, and he was still as clean as ever. The seahorse Douluo's pupils contracted. He seemed to have casually formed the 8 water pillars just now, but he had used part of the holy pillar's strength, his immense soul power, and the strength of his domain to form the torrents of water pillars that were dozens of meters tall. He didn't expect it to be broken so easily, especially the sword technique that the other party used to control the sword. It was terrifying. With the seahorse Douluo's knowledge, he could naturally tell that the other party was using vast spiritual power to control the sword. That was why he was able to break the 8 water pillars so easily. Furthermore, his soul power undulations weren't strong. The seahorse Douluo couldn't even sense the other party's strength. He didn't even release his martial soul. That huge treasure sword was more like a soul bone. Wang Feng slowly walked over and glanced at Tang San. Naturally, he didn't have any other thoughts. Furthermore, he actually had a few motives for coming here. Firstly, Don had gone through the 8th test in advance. He thought that she would be able to become a god in the next 4 to 5 years. In that case, Tang San and the rest had probably just passed the test on Sea God's Island. Once they returned, they would have to face Don, who had become a god. Needless to say, they would be beaten up. Wang Feng felt that even if he was over rank 70, he wouldn't be able to defeat a god. He should be able to try at rank 90. Hence, once his identity was exposed, he would also be beaten up, not to mention that Qianren Xue was probably going to become a god too. The Luosha secret realm was Wang Feng's typical mistake. A huge mistake. However, there was nothing he could do about it. Wang Feng was not a god. There was no way he could be 100% sure about anything. However, logically speaking, at the end of the Luosha secret realm, Wang Feng felt that there was a 99% chance that Bibidan's god seat would be destroyed. He didn't know how Don managed to trigger that 1% chance. It actually caused such a huge reversal. All of Wang Feng's previous efforts were in vain. Hence, Wang Feng needed to help Tang San and the rest pass the test quickly on Sea God's Island. At the same time, he needed to become stronger. At the very least, he had to be over rank 70. There was another important point. 3 years later, Don would most likely bring the 1,000 Dao streams to Sea God's Island. When that time came, it would be a turning point. Wang Feng didn't know what to do if Don brought the 1,000 Dao streams to Sea God's Island 3 years later. P.S. My eyes hurt a little. Chapter 721. Wang Feng was speechless when he thought of this. Wang Feng walked over to Hulaina and the others and looked at the seahorse Daluo. There was a strange look in the seahorse Daluo's eyes at this moment. "You're not young, are you?" The seahorse Daluo looked at Wang Feng and said coldly. He was shocked by Wang Feng's strength and methods. A soul emperor couldn't have broken his 8 water pillars with a single sword. "Is there an age requirement for the Sea God's Island's test?" Wang Feng asked calmly. "Anyone can enter the Sea God's Island as long as they are recognized by the Sea God." The seahorse Douluo narrowed his eyes. "There's no age requirement, but I suspect that you're from an unknown background." The seahorse Douluo was a little puzzled by Wang Feng's strength. The others could be considered geniuses at such a young age. However, the seahorse Douluo was confident that Tang Wulin would definitely be an extraordinary figure even if he were to be placed in the outside world. Why would such a powerful individual want to come to the Sea God's Island? "Are you suspecting that we're from the Martial Spirit Hall?" Wang Feng looked at the seahorse Douluo and suddenly asked. The seahorse Daluo's expression didn't change, but his aura became colder. "Would you believe me if I said that we are?" Wang Feng looked at Tang San and the others before looking at Hulaina and the others. Wang Feng released his aura slightly. The seahorse Douluo was slightly stunned. He frowned and sensed these people. The black-robed man in front of him exuded an aura as pure as the sea. It was closer to nature. He didn't seem like the soul masters from the Martial Spirit Hall who had attacked them more than 20 years ago. "So, your suspicions are useless." Wang Feng looked at the holy pillar behind the seahorse. "Why don't we hand it over to the Sea God? The Sea God's Island's test is given by the Sea God. If the Sea God approves you, I'm sure you'll be able to clear your doubts, right?" Wang Feng knew that these tests were given by the gods. Wang Feng already knew about them when he was in the Rakshasa's secret realm. The seahorse Dalu suddenly laughed and said, "Indeed, since you want to participate in the Sea God's Island's test, you should be prepared." What the other party said made sense. If these people were really people with bad intentions, it would be impossible for them to gain the approval of the Sea God. With that, the seahorse Dalu carried the few of them to the front of the holy pillar. He said plainly, "Follow the order in which you passed the test." Hearing this, everyone immediately stood properly. Since Tang San and the others passed the test first, they were naturally the first to take the test. The group was somewhat excited, whether it was Tang San's team of 9 or Hulaina's team of 3. Before coming here, Don had told Hulaina that the Sea God's Island was a special place, and the tests here were very important. Similarly, Tang San and the other 8 people were a little excited. Wang Feng was the only one who remained calm. He knew that the Sea God's Islands test should be the same as the Rakshasa mystic realm. However, he didn't know how dangerous it was. At this moment, the seahorse Douluo walked to the side of the holy pillar and pressed his hands against it as he muttered something. Then, the surrounding lake water began to boil. The holy pillar's energy seemed to have been activated, emitting a faint blue light. Even the words on it began to flicker like the stars in the sky. Wang Feng could vaguely feel a majestic force from the pillar. It was somewhat similar to the statue in the Rakshasa temple. After activating the holy pillar, the seahorse Douluo looked at everyone and pointed at the first person in front. He said, "Come forward and look at the holy pillar. The holy pillar can connect to the sea god, and it will give you the corresponding test." I'll say in advance, although there are many types of tests given by the holy pillar, they are all extremely dangerous. The more difficult the test, the lower the chance of survival. Most of the tests are only about success or failure. There's no luck involved. Once you accept the test, you can't escape. It's not too late to back out now. The seahorse Douluo swept his gaze across everyone. His voice was calm, but there was a hint of coldness in it. Although these continental soul masters were geniuses, many of them had died in the tests. However, no one answered him. Right now, they were only looking at the holy pillar. "I'll go first." Dai Mubai laughed. "If we were afraid of death, we wouldn't have come to the sea god's island." After he finished speaking, Dai Mubai walked in front of the holy pillar. The seahorse Douluo looked at Dai Mubai. After that, he flicked his finger, and an intense blue light landed on Dai Mubai's body. In the next moment, the holy pillar started to shine intensely from the bottom. At the bottom, the light was blue. Then it was white. Finally, it was yellow. At the same time, the words on the holy pillar seemed to have been activated. They flowed with different colors of light. After the yellow light, it reached the middle of the holy pillar and became purple. After entering the purple light, the speed at which the light rose became much slower. Finally, it reached the top of the holy pillar and became black. Finally, the light stopped at the level of black. After that, the black light shot out and landed in front of Dai Mubai. It formed a black light screen. There were densely packed golden words on it. Finally, it imprinted in between Dai Mubai's eyebrows, forming a thumb-sized, six-pointed black star. Dai Mubai's body trembled. He seemed to have realized something. The seahorse Douluo frowned slightly. He looked at Dai Mubai and shook his head. "It's the sixth black test." His tone was very strange. He sounded a little shocked and a little regretful. After he finished speaking, the seahorse Douluo looked at the puzzled crowd and explained. "The test is divided into different types according to the colors. The black test is one of the most difficult tests. It's also the test with the highest mortality rate. After so many years on the Sea God's Island, only 7 people have passed the black test. There are 7 holy pillars. The sixth black test is even more difficult." What he meant was that Dai Mubai's chances of passing the test were very low. The chances of him dying were very high. Furthermore, the seahorse Douluo had said that this test was unavoidable. Once it was decided, it couldn't be changed. There was no way to avoid it. Wang Feng knew that the black screen of light and the golden text likely represented the power of the sea god. When he thought of this, Wang Fengxian's heart skipped a beat. When the power of the Rakshasa god descended, part of it was absorbed by the blood traces of his dark angel martial soul. In the end, there was only one test. Will the power of the sea god's test be absorbed by the blood traces? Wang Feng thought about it and felt that it was unlikely. The sea god seemed to be slightly stronger than the Rakshasa god. Furthermore, their powers were different. The power of the Rakshasa god was evil. It was compatible with the power of the blood traces. However, the power of the sea god should be completely different. Chapter 722. The Rakshasa god gave me the true god's 9 tests. Will the sea god give me 9 tests too? Wang Fengxian thought to himself, "I don't think so. The sea god's successor should be Little 3. He still has a treasure on him. I don't really need it. The sea god's island is very suitable for cultivation. I should cultivate to rank 70 as soon as possible." At this moment, The seahorse Douluo's words didn't scare them at all. Instead, they were even more excited. Sixth black rank test. Dai Mubai looked at the seahorse Douluo and couldn't help but laugh proudly. Doesn't this mean that my aptitude isn't inferior to the 7 holy pillars of the sea god's island? I'm actually that strong? The seahorse Douluo looked at Dai Mubai speechlessly. He could only sigh in his heart. These land-based soul masters really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. They still don't know how perverted this test is. Having the aptitude for the 6 black rank test doesn't mean that you can pass it. Let's go, let me do it. Ma Hongjun said excitedly. Senior, is there anything stronger than the 6 black rank test? I feel that my talent and aptitude are much stronger than Boss Dai. The 6th black rank test isn't suitable for me. When Dai Mubai heard this, he couldn't help but kick him. Fatty, who gave you such confidence? Ma Hongjun smiled cheekily and dodged it. He walked excitedly to the holy pillar and looked at the seahorse Daw. The seahorse Dalu wanted to laugh. He looked at Ma Hongjun and slowly explained, There is, but don't think about it. It's not something you can achieve. The 6 black rank test is already very rare for you. However, you are still so optimistic. It's worthy of praise. Ma Hongjun pursed his lips and looked like he didn't believe him. Seeing this, the seahorse Dalu didn't say anything. He pointed at Ma Hongjun with a blue light. The holy pillar immediately lit up. In the end, it stopped above the black light like Dai Mubai and didn't exceed it. 6th black rank test. The seahorse Dalu was stunned. What's going on? 2 6 black rank tests in a row. Normally, I wouldn't even meet one in a few years. Ma Hongjun looked at the black screen of light in front of him. With a light grab, the black screen of light entered his glabella. That shouldn't be the case. My talent should be higher than Boss Dai. Ma Hongjun rubbed his chin, looking pensive. Dai Mubai jokingly scolded again. Fatty, why don't we practice alone? Let's see if your talent is higher or mine is higher. His soul power rank was much higher than Ma Hongjun's. If they fought one-on-one, Ma Hongjun definitely wouldn't be able to defeat him. Ma Hongjun chuckled and walked back while touching the mark on his forehead. These 7 people's talents and qualifications should be about the same, except for Xiao San. Wang Feng looked at the 7 of them. However, that Bai Qinxiang and Oscar's girlfriend should be worse. It's a pity for Bai Qinxiang. If she could get closer to Fatty, her talent would improve a lot. Of course, the intimacy that Wang Feng was talking about was not as simple as grabbing and touching. Instead, it is similar to the kind of dual cultivation in immortal cultivation. Although Ma Hongjun and Bai Qinxiang's progress was fast, it was impossible for them to reach that stage. However, there would be opportunities in the future. Let me try too. Oscar walked forward and looked at the holy pillar. He said, I'm not asking for much. I just want the same as Boss Dai. The seahorse Dalu didn't say anything. He pointed at the pillar with a blue light. The holy pillar immediately lit up. However, it stopped at the tip of the black light. It couldn't fill up the last section and light up the topmost layer of the holy pillar. However, the seahorse Dalu's mouth twitched. Another 6th black armor exam. Among the 7 holy pillars, only the sea dragon Dalu was a 6th black test. Oscar nodded in satisfaction. Chi-Chi, come and try too. It seems quite interesting. Shunling-Chi made a sound of acknowledgement and stepped out first. Black is so ugly. Ning Rongrong frowned as she looked at the black 6-pointed star on Dai Mubai's and the others' foreheads. Zhu Zhuqing, I don't want black. I like pink or light red. What about you? Zhu Zhuqing. Wang Feng was speechless when he heard Ning Rongrong's words. Are you kidding me? You like it. The seahorse Dalu also heard Ning Rongrong's muttering. His face darkened, and he felt a little stuffy in his chest. What's wrong with these kids? All of them. Wang Feng glanced at Ning Rongrong. Coincidentally, Ning Rongrong also sensed Wang Feng's gaze. She glared fiercely at Wang Feng. Her ferocious gaze seemed to want to cut Wang Feng into pieces. Wang Feng turned his head and looked at Shunling-Chi. Shunling-Chi's talent was on display at this moment. This was the 4th black test, second only to the 6th black test. Wang Feng thought for a moment. If Shunling-Chi consumed the immortal herb, she should be able to pass the 6 black test. Shenling Qi didn't look very disappointed. She still had a smile on her face. She didn't feel depressed because her talent wasn't as good as theirs. At this moment, Bai Qinxiang hesitated and glanced at Ma Hongjun. Xiang, why don't you go and try too? Ma Hongjun whispered, this sea god's test is just one thing. Talent only represents one aspect of a soul master. It doesn't represent everything. It also doesn't represent how much I like you. Bai Qinxiang rolled her eyes at Ma Hongjun. However, she still took a deep breath and walked up the holy pillar. After going through 3 6th black tests, the seahorse Dalu was already very calm. The holy pillars lit up one by one, from blue to white to yellow, and finally stopped at purple. However, it was very faint. The second purple test. The seahorse Dalu heaved a sigh of relief. A relaxed smile appeared on his face. Although the purple test is very difficult, it's still possible to pass. The success rate is also much higher than the black test. Finally, there's a normal test. This made the seahorse Dalu feel very relaxed. Bai Qinxiang still looked a little disappointed when she saw this. However, it quickly disappeared. Along the way, she had already gotten used to the gap between herself and these people. Seeing Bai Qinxiang walk back, Ma Hongjun quickly held her hand and chuckled. Xiang, in my heart, you are the 6th black test. No, you are the highest test. That's enough. My heart isn't as weak as you think. Bai Qinxiang looked at Ma Hongjun. Her beautiful face suddenly turned red. She seemed to have thought of something. She lowered her head and didn't say anything. It's my turn. Ning Rongrong jumped up the steps of the holy pillar. She said crisply, Senior, I don't want to take the black test. A girl's forehead is so black. It's so ugly. I think Xiangxiang's purple color is pretty good. I don't want the black test. I want the purple test too. Her words made the seahorse Douluo laugh. He looked at Ning Rongrong, annoyed and amused. Chapter 723. The Holy Pillar judges all of you according to the sea god's will. The seahorse Dalu lowered his voice and said, It's not something I can change. Ning Rongrong pursed her lips. Bai Qinxiang was a little touched. She knew that Ning Rongrong said that on purpose. Rongrong has changed. She knows how to take care of others' feelings. She's become a caring little girl. Wang Feng looked at Ning Rongrong and felt a little emotional. At this moment, the seahorse Dalu pointed at Ning Rongrong. The holy pillar quickly lit up. However, it was a little different this time. Wang Feng was also watching. As for Tang San and the rest test, Wang Feng knew that little 3 was definitely going to take the 9 tests of the sea god. He also didn't know what Rongrong was thinking on the holy pillar. After the black light passed, the topmost layer suddenly lit up, forming a bright red light. The bright red light rushed out of the holy pillar. It even shot into the clouds. It was an extraordinary display of power. Red rank 7 test. The seahorse Dalu was stunned. He looked at Ning Rongrong and felt a little incredulous. The red rank 7 test was much rarer than the black rank 6 test. Furthermore, the nature of the test was very different. After a while, the red light slowly descended. It turned into a red 7-pointed star and landed in between Ning Rongrong's eyebrows. It made Ning Rongrong even more charming. Ning Rongrong touched her forehead. She didn't think of this test at first. Instead, she took out an exquisite mirror from her soul tool and looked at her reflection. After that, she nodded in satisfaction. It looks pretty good. Everyone was speechless. Elder, is the red rank 7 test above the black rank 6 test? Tang San asked as he saw that his friends were all being tested. The seahorse Dalu looked at Ning Rongrong respectfully and said, The 7 red tests are also known as the 7 top-tier tests. This test is completely different from the 6 black grade test. Once the 7th black grade test appears, it means that the Sea God's Island will have a new great deacon. If she passes the test, she will be the successor to our Sea God's Island. After hearing this, Tang San and the others were enlightened. No wonder the seahorse Dalu was suddenly so respectful. Wang Feng was also a little surprised. Rongrong, had the potential? Wang Feng looked at Ning Rongrong with a strange feeling. Rongrong's aptitude shouldn't be that high, right? What kind of concept was the head consecrator? The martial spirit palace's thousand Dalu and the sea god's island's possessee were both extremely powerful, peerless Douluo. On the other hand, Ning Rongrong was an auxiliary-type soul master. After becoming a great reverend, her fighting strength was much weaker than other soul masters of the same rank. For a great reverend, one must be extremely powerful, right? Was it really okay for the sea god to do this? Wang Feng was a little puzzled. Since it appeared, there must be a reason for it. However, thinking about it, Ning Rongrong's martial soul had undergone a huge change. It belonged to the kind of martial soul mutation that had greatly improved. Perhaps her talent was just a little bit stronger? Their talents and aptitudes are very high. Evil Moon and the others couldn't help but mutter, "Why is the gap so huge?" Although they hadn't tried it yet, the three of them already had an estimate in their hearts. It couldn't be so exaggerated. Wang Feng could tell what the three of them were thinking. He thought to himself, "Have you eaten any immortal herbs? Although you have been by my side for a while, it's impossible for you to reach the level of Tang San and the others. Rongrong, you don't seem to care about your test at all. This 7th black grade test is probably much stronger than our 6th black grade test." Dai Mubai couldn't help but say. "I don't care." Ning Rongrong snorted softly. She giggled and said, "For a girl, whether she looks good or not is the most important thing." Shun Lingqi touched the mark on her forehead and nodded in agreement. A girl with a black mark between her eyebrows really didn't look good. It wasn't that she didn't look good, but it didn't match her temperament. Bai Qinxiang also touched her forehead. From Ning Rongrong's perspective, she was a little satisfied. After all, purple did look good. Although the 7th black grade test is difficult, in reality, once it appears, it means that you will definitely pass. Everyone was astonished by the seahorse Douluo's words. There's such a thing? Wang Feng couldn't help it. This is too much. Ning Rongrong didn't feel anything. She only wanted to become more beautiful. She could see that Wang Feng would be smitten by her. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel happy. After everyone exclaimed for a while, Zhu Zhuqing walked up. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. Zhu Zhuqing had the meteoric tear on her. Over the past 5 years, although Zhu Zhuqing didn't really understand the effects of the meteoric tear, she had subtly changed a lot. In terms of talent and aptitude, she wasn't much inferior to Tang San. She was the strongest among them. Zhu Zhuqing had a cold personality. She was also more taciturn. She didn't like to talk much. She walked up to the holy pillar without saying a word. The seahorse Douluo's worldview had been overturned for so many years by this group of people. However, he had no regrets now that he could see the 7th black grade test. The seahorse Douluo looked at the girl in front of him. The blue light from his finger landed on Zhu Zhuqing's body. In the next moment, the light shot up from the holy pillar at a speed visible to the naked eye. The light turned black in an instant, and finally turned red. It was the same as Ning Rongrong's, but the light was even denser. However, it was still the 7th black grade test. The 2nd black grade test, the seahorse Douluo couldn't help but look at Zhu Zhuqing. He was stunned. In comparison, Tang San and the others weren't that shocked. It was very simple. Zhu Zhuqing's improvement over the past few years had been too fast. It was as if her talent had mutated. Dai Mubai's soul power rank was higher than Zhu Zhuqing's, but she had already surpassed him half a year ago. Her cultivation speed was unbelievably fast. Furthermore, based on her performance in battle, her foundation was extremely solid. The Grandmaster originally suspected that Zhu Zhuqing had used some improper method. However, after listening to Zhu Zhuqing's explanation, he understood a little. Zhu Zhuqing didn't mention how Wang Feng had saved her in the Palace Palace. She didn't even know how Wang Feng had saved her. However, she felt that her heart was very special during her cultivation. It seemed to have been modified. Not only did it greatly increase her cultivation speed, but it also changed the quality of her body. Her talent and fighting strength were constantly improving. Even if the change was not obvious, over the course of 5 years, the accumulation of time would make the change very obvious. A red 7-pointed star appeared on Zhu Zhuqing's forehead. It added to her cold aura and made her even more charming. Zhu Zhuqing walked back silently. As she walked down, she stole a glance at Wang Feng. Chapter 724. Who else? The seahorse Daluo's voice trembled. That kid with the hammer. He was referring to Tang San. Tang San nodded slightly and walked up with Xiao Wu. Xiao Wu was unconscious, so Tang San had to carry her up. Wang Feng watched carefully. Soon, the holy pillar lit up. This time, it was faster than the previous few times. After the red light at the top of the holy pillar lit up, many different lights lit up below. They intersected and shot into the sky, forming a dazzling golden light. This must be the 9 tests of the sea god. Wang Feng could feel the surging energy in the holy pillar. He had to admit that it was slightly stronger than the 9 tests of the true gods. He could only feel it from the energy undulations. Wang Feng shook his head. The main character was still the main character. In terms of talent, Wang Feng felt that Little 3 was slightly weaker than BB Dawn. However, it was a pity that she had consumed 2 immortal herbs. In addition, she had treasures and cultivated special techniques. She was definitely stronger than BB Dawn, who only had twin martial souls. The golden light gathered like a whirlpool. Finally, a red light separated and landed on Xiao Wu. However, it was very faint. It was much fainter than Ning Rongrong and Zhu Zhuqing's 7 tests of the pinnacle. Is that the pinnacle trial? But what kind of trial did this child trigger? The seahorse Dalu was stunned as he looked at the couple in front of him. The pinnacle trial was very strange. However, he had never seen the golden light before. The golden light turned into a huge golden light. There were mysterious ancient words in it. Finally, it gathered in between Tang San's eyebrows and formed the symbol of a trident. After a moment, the light shrank. Everyone looked at Tang San in shock. Say, Senior, what trial is this? Dai Mubai swallowed his saliva and asked. The seahorse Dalu was silent for a moment. He shook his head and said, I don't know either. I have been on the sea god's island for so many years, but I have never seen such a trial. Everyone looked at the seahorse Dalu speechlessly. The title Dalu of the sea god's island, one of the 7 holy pillars, didn't know? Tang San was also a little perplexed. He had only sensed a burst of special power emanating from the vast sea cosmic shroud, making him feel as if his entire body had been bathed in a gentle energy. After the golden light entered his glabella, he seemed to have understood something. Although I don't know, this test is definitely beyond the top 7 tests. The seahorse Dalu couldn't help but shake his head. How strange. He could somewhat understand Xiao Wu's top-tier test, but he knew nothing about the golden light test. At this time, a gentle voice with a bit of majesty sounded. That's the 9 trials of the sea god. Wang Feng turned his head and saw a beautiful woman in her 30s. She wore a red robe and held a golden scepter. Even the gemstone inlaid on top of the scepter was pure gold. The figure walked over leisurely from the distant horizon. It seemed to be very far away, but in the blink of an eye, it was already right in front of Zhang Xian. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. He knew that this woman was the head consecrator of the sea god's island, Possessi. Although she looked like she was in her 30s, Possessi was probably more than 100 years old. She was someone who was on the same level as his great-grandmother. When the seahorse Dalu saw this woman, he hurriedly walked over and said respectfully, Head consecrator, Possessi shook her head. She looked as if she had seen the vicissitudes of life. She looked at Tang San and smiled. Child, this is the 9 tests of the sea god. I've waited for more than 100 years on the sea god's island, and it's finally here. Your aura is a little familiar. Possessi's smile was very gentle, like a spring breeze. Can I see your 2 martial souls? Tang San was stunned. When he passed the seahorse Daluo's test, he only used his clear sky hammer. He didn't even use his soul rings. He didn't expect this legendary rank 99 head consecrator of the sea god's island to be able to tell at a glance. However, When he thought about this head consecrator's background, Tang San wasn't too surprised. His master had once told him that even the head consecrator of the martial soul hall had been defeated by Possessi. It seemed like there was a gap between them, even among rank 99 exceptional Douluo. Wang Feng was trying to estimate the aura that Possessi gave off. That scepter should be a special divine weapon, right? Wang Feng glanced at Possessi. Thousand Dao Stream's abilities shouldn't be much weaker than Possessi's. If they were in the sky, Possessi might not be able to defeat him. However, if they were on the Sea God's Island, Thousand Dao Stream wouldn't be able to defeat him. However, Wang Feng could sense an extremely special aura from Possessi's body. It was similar to Bibidin's aura. It was the aura of a god. I wonder if this Possessi can defeat that demon whale. Wang Feng felt that it shouldn't be possible. At this moment, Tang San revealed his two martial souls. Clear Sky Hammer. Possessi looked at the small hammer and was stunned. Then, he sighed and said, "You're Tang Chen's descendant, right?" Tang San was shocked. He quickly nodded and said, "My great-grandfather is Tang Chen." Before leaving the Sea God's Island, Tang San had returned to the Clear Sky sect. He knew some of his great-grandfather's deeds. He didn't expect the head consecrator of the Sea God's Island to know him. Bai Saishi nodded slightly. His slightly disappointed gaze disappeared as he said slowly, "That's right, Tang San. The Sea God's 9 tests are very important. You're very talented. You must pass at least 7 tests within 5 years." Although his voice was still gentle, there was a hint of authority in it. Wang Fengxin thought, could it be that Possessi also sensed that Bibidon had passed the 8th test? Did he already predict it? If that's the case, this Possessi is really strong. However, it seemed like these exceptional Douluo who were only one step away from becoming gods, especially those who had participated in the Sea God's test, had a special feeling. It was just like how the 1,000 Streams could also sense that Bibidon had passed the 8th test. 5 years was the time limit for Bibidon's 9th test. "Senior, I'll do my best." Tang San nodded heavily. "No, not just your best. You have to give it your all." Possessi's tone was cold. "Child, the Sea God's 9 tests are related to the survival of the Sea God's Island. At the same time, it's also related to your own life. Just trying your best is not enough. I'll talk about this for now. I'll explain it to you in detail in the future. But remember one thing. You must not forget. You must pass. Even if you have to risk your life, you must pass." His voice carried a hint of Poseidon's rank 99 exceptional aura. It made everyone feel as if they were under the sea. They felt as if there was endless water pressure pressing down on them. His tone was very heavy. Tang San and the others were so shocked that they couldn't speak. Only Tang San felt something and nodded slowly. Chapter 725. Seeing this, Possessi looked at the seahorse Douluo and said, "Pass down my orders. No one on the Sea God's Island is allowed to offend these 9 people. Apart from not helping them complete the test, we must try our best to fulfill their conditions." The seahorse Douluo quickly nodded. "Come to the Sea God's Palace tomorrow. I will hold a Sea God's conference. We will discuss the details then." After giving his instructions, Possessi was about to leave when he suddenly looked at Wang Feng and the others. Wang Fengxin's heart skipped a beat. One had to know that he had also experienced the true God's test. He wondered if Possessi could sense it. It shouldn't be possible. After all, there was only one test. He wasn't the heir to the Rakshasa deity's throne. From Possessi's words, it was obvious that he had sensed some danger. Even if he didn't know that Bibidon would come 3 years later, he had a strong sense of danger. That was why he spoke so seriously to Tang San. However, Wang Fengxin was still a little worried when he sensed that Possessi was sizing him up, Hulaina, and the others. It didn't matter if he was discovered. He could escape at any time. However, it was hard to say if Hulaina and the others were discovered. Fortunately, Possessi only glanced at Wang Feng. He didn't say anything else. Or rather, Tang San's appearance had given him the greatest surprise. "The 4 of you, come to the Holy Pillar quickly for the test." At this moment, the seahorse Douluo hurriedly looked at Wang Feng and the others. Although the seahorse Dalu had never heard of the 9 tests of the sea god, he knew that it wasn't simple. Naturally, he wanted the remaining 4 to finish the test quickly. Then, he would return to Seahorse City to prepare. After Possessi appeared, Hulaina and the others carefully concealed their auras. They remained silent. Possessi gave them a feeling that he was even scarier than the Martial Spirit Hall's great consecrator. "Let me go first." Evil Moon walked up. Under the seahorse Dalu's blue light, the holy pillar shone brightly. Eventually, it formed a black light. Evil Moon's talent was slightly inferior to Shunlingchi's. Third black test. The gap between him and the 7 monsters was obvious. Next, Yan walked up. Yan's talent and aptitude were better than Evil Moon's. His strength lay in his martial spirit. He was on par with Shunlingchi in the 4th black grade examination. Finally, it was Hulaina. Hulaina was the most talented of the 3. She was a 6th grade black student and was only slightly weaker than the 7 monsters. It was mainly because of the star that his martial soul had undergone a deep mutation. Furthermore, he had stayed in the Massacre City. "These 3 don't seem too bad," the seahorse Dalu muttered to himself. They were all black ranks, and the worst of them were only slightly weaker than him. Wang Feng stood there quietly. "Why is this Possessi still here?" Wang Fengxin secretly said. He was a little worried that there would be a problem during the Saint Pillar examination. "Teacher," Hulaina looked at Wang Feng, her eyes filled with admiration and confidence. She was full of expectations for Wang Feng. It was not just the 3 of them. Even Tang San and the other 8 looked at Wang Feng with different expressions. This white-clothed Popetiff from the Martial Spirit Palace had disguised himself and entered the Sea God's Island. It was definitely not that simple. Tang San even wanted to tell Possessi who he was so that he could capture him. However, considering that the situation was a little complicated and Tang San did not know what was going on, he did not do so. This white-clothed Popetiff brought too much pressure. When he attacked the wolf bandits, even Senior Chinexian was no match for him. If he had not broken through at the last minute, he did not know what would have happened. "Don't you want to give it a try?" At this moment, Possessi, who had not left yet, said faintly. His tone was not as gentle as the sea, and he did not have the majestic coldness of a great consecrator. He was very calm. Wang Feng walked up and looked at the Saint Pillar in silence. The seahorse Dalu's eyes flashed, and a blue light fell on Wang Feng. In the next moment, rays of light flashed from the bottom of the Saint Pillar almost instantly, as if it had been activated in an instant. Countless patterns on the Saint Pillar flickered, and violent energy spread out from the Saint Pillar. Waves of air blew the surrounding lake water and the forest in the distance. Blue, white, yellow, purple, black, and red lights lit up instantly, and a light pillar shot into the sky. In the end, it also formed a golden light pillar. This golden light pillar was extremely dazzling. It was even more dazzling than Tang San's. Everyone's eyes widened. Even Possessi's calm eyes were a little shocked at this moment. He did not expect this to happen. There could not be 2 of the 9 trials of the sea god. This represented the inheritance of the sea god. How could there be 2 of them? At this moment, Possessi's expression was similar to that of the ghost Dalu in the heavenly Rakshasa secret realm. Confusion, shock, doubt, all kinds of expressions flashed across Possessi's mind. If Possessi was like this, then everyone else was like this. The seahorse Dalu was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped to the ground. Crack, crack. The seahorse Dalu felt a crisp crack coming from Possessi. He looked to the side and was stunned. He saw that the Saint Pillar, which was covered with countless ancient patterns, was cracking along with those patterns. This is the seahorse Dalu stared at the Saint Pillar in a daze. A red shadow flickered, and Possessi immediately appeared in front of the Saint Pillar. He looked at the Saint Pillar with a burning gaze, and the golden scepter in his hand shone with a peerless light. At the same time, a ball of blue light appeared in his hand, and he pressed it against the Saint Pillar. This caused the cracks on the Saint Pillar to slowly heal. Even Possessi was not sure what was going on. However, What happened next made Poseidon, who was already unclear about the situation, even more confused. The dazzling golden light pillar quickly weakened, and it was weakening layer by layer. By the time it landed on Wang Feng's body, it was already very faint. In the end, it imprinted itself between Wang Feng's brows and formed a dim trident. Only then did the commotion slowly die down. For a moment, there was an incomparable silence in the sea. As the commotion died down, the surrounding water also calmed down. Head Consecrator, the seahorse Douluo was completely stunned. Is this also one of the 9 trials of the sea god? Possessi did not reply. She was not sure what was going on either. Possessi had been on the sea god's island for so many years, and she had always followed the will of the sea god. She was not even sure if this was one of the 9 trials of the sea god. The dazzling golden light had completely surpassed the corresponding light of the 9 trials of the sea god. It even seemed to be evolving. This meant that this person had not only received the approval of the sea god, but the sea god also believed that this person could reach a higher level. At least that was what Possessi understood. Possessi was not sure about the specifics. She did not understand the world of the gods. However, if that was the case, why did the golden light at the end weaken? What did weakening mean? Did it mean that the sea god was disappointed in him? Or did she discover something? But how could the sea god make a mistake? For a moment, Possessi's mind was in a mess. She felt that she had to contact the sea god personally to understand what was going on. Actually, Possessi had already sensed the powerful aura from the other party. She knew that the other party was not simple. However, she did not expect the situation to be like this. If even she, as the head consecrator of the sea god's island, was in such a state, there was no need to talk about the others. At this moment, perhaps only Wang Feng knew what was going on. P.S. My eyes are a little sore today. I don't think so. Rest for a while. I'll fight again tomorrow. Chapter 726. When the golden pillar of light rose, Wang Feng felt that it was very strange, because this was even more exaggerated than in front of the Rakshasa statue. Back then, the Rakshasa deity gave him the 9 tests of true gods. But now, this one even surpassed the 9 tests of sea god, which made Wang Feng feel incredulous. Could it be that the sea god thinks so highly of me? One must know that the sea god was not personally present in this kind of test, so it was impossible for him to perceive many of his secrets. The sea god shouldn't have descended to the mortal world, right? Could it be that he has seen me? Impossible. Wang Fengxin said. Could it be that he was shocked after sensing my handsome appearance? In any case, when the golden light rose into the sky, Wang Feng was very puzzled. Then, Wang Feng felt that the golden light was forming some kind of connection with him and flew into his mind. But it was also at that time that Wang Feng felt the dark angel martial spirit in his body go berserk again, as if it was rejecting this power and, at the same time, absorbing this power. This really surprised Wang Feng. All along, although this dark angel martial spirit was called a martial spirit, Wang Feng felt that this thing was slightly different from a martial spirit. It was more like a different kind of martial spirit. From the power of the blood marks cultivated, it could be seen that this was not something that an ordinary martial spirit could do. The chaotic green lotus and Pangu axe were martial spirits that surpassed the Douluo world. Naturally, they were different. But this dark angel martial spirit was very likely to be a martial spirit that surpassed the Douluo world. It was more like a high-level form of energy and not just a martial soul. When the system gave it to him, Wang Feng remembered very clearly that this was just a mysterious humanoid martial spirit. The dark angel martial spirit was just a name he gave it. Could this martial spirit be the same as the Qian Rinchue's 6-winged angel, a symbol of some kind of divine position? The Qian Rinchue's 6-winged angel martial spirit was a symbol of the angel god itself, because only in this way could Wang Feng understand why the dark angel martial spirit could not only absorb the power of the Rakshasa deity, but also the power of the sea god. This meant that the dark angel martial soul was most likely some kind of divine position inheritance. As the dark angel martial soul absorbed the power of the 9 trials of the sea god, there was an additional trace of blue light in the blood patterns. Wang Feng vaguely sensed that the original sin's domain had also changed. The 7 pairs of pitch-black wings of the angel martial soul in his sea of consciousness had turned from black to blackish gold. This was also the reason why the golden light became weaker and weaker as it fell. Because it was the same as the 9 tests of true gods given by the Rakshasa deity, most of its power had been absorbed. However, there was something that Wang Feng did not understand. He had only absorbed a portion of such a massive amount of golden light. Most of it had automatically dissipated. It was quite strange. This dark angel martial soul possesses the blood traces formed by cultivating 7 types of origin energy. It can even absorb the divine power that descended. Although it might be weaker than the primal chaos green lotus and the Pangu axe, it might be the key to a deity position. However, there is no deity position inheritance related to this dark angel martial soul in the Douluo world. Could it be that the deity position has shattered and fallen? Wang Feng did not know much about the deity position in the Douluo world, so he could only make wild guesses. At this moment, when the light passed through Wang Feng's mask and formed a trident between his eyebrows, Wang Feng slowly regained his senses. Everyone's gaze landed on Wang Feng, fixated on him. "Sir, can you take off your mask?" Possessy withdrew his hand from the holy pillar and looked at the holy pillar that was still intact. His eyes flickered with a strange light. The holy pillar was connected to the sea god. The shattering of the holy pillar meant that the sea god's test could not be withstood by a single holy pillar. In other words, no matter what, the situation just now had surpassed the 9 trials of the sea god. Possessy had never experienced such a situation and could not explain it. He could only confirm it by understanding the other party. But no matter what, it was indeed the 9 trials of the sea god. It was just that the light at the end suddenly became extremely weak. This was what puzzled Possessy the most. Perhaps only the sea god descends would know the answer to that. Wang Feng did not hesitate and took off his mask. Tang San and the others had seen his face before. Hulaina and the other 2 had also seen his face before. He wore this mask because he was used to it. He did not want to cause a commotion. The moment the mask was taken off, the trident on Wang Feng's forehead appeared in front of Possessy's eyes. It was not as bright and golden as Tang San's, and the imprint was very deep. Instead, it was very faint and indistinct. "TSK, isn't this person too handsome?" The seahorse Douluo could not help but exclaim. He immediately shut his mouth after he finished speaking. In terms of appearance, Tang San could be said to be superior to everyone else. However, this mysterious black-clothed man's appearance seemed to transcend everything. He seemed to be one with nature. At first glance, one would be amazed that such a man existed in the world. At second glance, one would be deeply attracted. At third glance, one would be unable to extricate oneself. The more the seahorse Douluo looked at him, the more he felt like he understood something. When Possessy first saw Wang Feng, he vaguely understood how he could cause such a huge commotion. When the mask was taken off, Wang Feng's appearance and aura merged into one. He exuded a pure and natural aura. This aura was comparable to the vastness of the sea and the vastness of the sky. It seemed to be able to contain and purify everything. This child's body is probably blessed by the heavens. Possessy muttered in his heart. The sea god must have seen this as well. That's why he sent down such a mysterious test. This test is beyond the 9 tests of the sea god. However, in reality, they were all wrong. It was because the sea god had seen Wang Feng that he sent down such a test that surpassed the 9 tests of the sea god. However, it was a pity that Wang Feng did not know this. No one else knew either. As for why it disappeared, that was another unknown secret. After thinking for a long time, Possessy looked at Wang Feng. His tone was as gentle and calm as before. "Wang Wu, can you tell me your background?" Wang Feng pondered for a moment before saying, "My name is Nicholas Wang Wu. I come from the northernmost part of the Soul Beast Forest. These 3 are my disciples. I brought them to Sea God's Island for cultivation." Logically speaking, apart from his name, everything Wang Feng said was true. However, after Tang San and the others heard this, they felt that it was a lie. Nicholas Wang Wu is not a famous name. If you asked the white-clothed Popetiff on the continent, everyone would know who he was. However, not many people knew the name Nicholas Wang Wu. Only Tang San knew this name. This was because Tang San already knew this name when he was in the City of Massacre. Possessy stared at Wang Feng and revealed a faint smile. I see. According to the light, your test should be the first or second test of the Sea God. Normally, the Sea God's test would only appear on one person. However, there are two people today. One is the first test, while the other is the first test. This is not impossible. Chapter 727. As the great consecrator, she couldn't tell him that she didn't know anything. That would damage her dignity as the great consecrator of the Sea God's Island. However, Possessy's guess wasn't wrong. Wang Feng was indeed taking the Sea God's second trial. Just like the True God's ninth trial, Wang Feng's Sea God trial had been reduced to 2 trials. There were really 2 trials, and it wasn't something that Wang Feng had made up. Wang Feng nodded in agreement. Possessy pondered for a moment. Wang Feng wasn't the Sea God's successor, but he had taken the Sea God's trial. He was also an important figure to the Sea God's Island. These 4 people are also the Sea God's Island's distinguished guests. Possessy said to the seahorse Dalu, "Let them stay in your seahorse city. Try to satisfy their conditions, but don't help them pass the trial." After giving his instructions, Possessy looked at Wang Feng and continued, "Although the Sea God's trial doesn't have 2 trials, it's still very dangerous. I hope you could do your best to pass the trial. It will help and improve yourself." The last sentence was for Wang Feng and Tang San's group of 7. Other than being meaningful, the trial was also very helpful to them. After speaking, Possessy turned into a streak of red light and disappeared from everyone's sight. The trial in front of the holy pillar finally came to an end. However, it gave Wang Feng a lot of thoughts about the godly position. Wang Feng didn't really care about the godly position in the Douluo world. However, it was still a path that couldn't be avoided. You could either walk over it or jump over it. Of course, you could also fly over it. However, you had to see this path. You had to know what it looked like. However, Wang Feng knew that if he wanted to step on this path directly, it would be far more difficult than Little 3 and Qianrenxue. It was too difficult. Wang Feng didn't know how big the gap between each rank was after he reached rank 90. How much time would it take? If he continued to compress and purify his soul power, it would be an astronomical number to reach rank 90. Now, that Wang Feng was at level 68, he had a deep understanding of this multiplied effect. When that time came, if he could really fight a god before reaching rank 90, would the rules of this world forbid him? Or perhaps it would provoke those experts from the god realm to covet it. What should he do then? Wang Feng's thoughts suddenly flew very far away. The world of Douluo was still very exciting, and the future was limitless. There was no point in thinking too much. The most important thing now was how to get through the crisis 3 years later. 3 years. If he wanted Tang San and the others to pass the test and leave the Sea God's Island. It was too difficult. "Everyone, please come with me." The seahorse Dalu looked at everyone, and his tone was completely different from before. There was a smile on his face as he said, "Follow me to Seahorse City first. I'll arrange accommodations for all of you, and you can rest for a few days. I'll also send someone to answer your questions regarding the test." Everyone nodded. "This white Popetiff Wang Wu isn't that great either," Ma Hongjun muttered softly. "Third brother, he's only taken the Sea God exam twice. He's far from you. Although this is the second time I've seen this guy, he's really handsome. Look at those people from the Sea God's Island." Even the seahorse Dalu was stunned. The envy and jealousy in Ma Hongjun's voice made Dai Mu Bai and the others nod their heads. Indeed, he's too damn handsome. What's the use of being handsome? At this moment, Bai Qinxiang suddenly opened her mouth to comfort him. Actually, for a girl, being handsome is more of an appreciation. The more handsome and capable a man is, the more girls will only admire him. They won't even really want to be with him, because this kind of man will make a lot of girls feel inferior. They will feel that they don't deserve him. They won't dare to like him. Look, no matter how handsome he is, has he ever been with a girl? Not at all. His identity and status are so extraordinary, but he doesn't even have a woman by his side. What does this mean? This means that he's not as good as you. Ma Hongjun was stunned when he heard Bai Qinxiang's words. Then, he hugged Bai Qinxiang's shoulders and said emotionally, "Qinxiang, I didn't expect you to say something like this. So, you admit that you're my wife, my woman?" Bai Qinxiang blushed and pushed Ma Hongjun away. She said, "Who said that? You didn't even propose to me. I was just comforting you." Tang San and the others looked at the two of them and couldn't help but smile. Actually, what Qinxiang said is quite reasonable. Oscar pondered and said, "A person who is too outstanding will make others flinch. If you really have to choose." At this point, Oscar thought for a moment and said with a deep expression, "I'm willing to be an outstanding person." Everyone, you mean you want to be such an outstanding person and then flirt with many girls? Shen Lingqi looked at Oscar from the side with a half smile. Oscar quivered and hurriedly waved his hand. "How can that be? The main thing is that you're too outstanding, Lingqi. I'm only doing this to be worthy of you. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to be such a person." Shen Lingqi giggled. "Who wants you to be worthy of me? I'm the one who has to work hard to be worthy of you." Tang Sen looked at Oscar's witty reply and thought, Oscar has never been in a relationship before. How can he say something like that? I'm also quite smart. Why can't I say something like that? Tang Sen held Xiao Wu's hand and suddenly thought, maybe this is the love between me and Xiao Wu? There were no fancy honeyed words, only the warmth of helping each other in times of need. I don't agree. Ning Rongrong raised her hand and said, people who love each other won't be restrained by the abilities of both parties. If one person sincerely likes the other person, then they will do everything they can to be worthy of the other person. They won't flinch. At least I won't. Bai Qinxiang nodded and said, Rongrong, you're right. But what if you can only see the other person's back no matter how hard you chase after him? Everyone was stunned. They thought, isn't she talking about Brother Feng? Then I can't give up, Ning Rongrong said. If love is given up so easily, then it's not called love. Even if I can't see the other person's back, I will still chase after him until I can't run anymore. Hearing that, Bai Qinxiang looked at Ning Rongrong. Seeing the determination in her eyes, her heart was touched. Only Zhu Zhuqing vaguely remembered what he said to her in the Pope's palace when she was lying in his arms. If one day he left this world, the world would be in chaos. Or rather, he was no longer in this world. Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuqing didn't dare to think too deeply. I support Rongrong, Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Tang Xin smiled and said, you're overstating it. In fact, if the gap between two people's love is too big, even if the person in front can't stop and wait for his lover, he will still help the lover behind him and move forward together. At least, that's what I do. Brother Feng has been doing the same. Tang San's final words directly pointed it out, making Ning Rongrong's face involuntarily redden. Zhu Zhuqing's face also flushed red. Wang Feng didn't know what they were talking about. If he knew, he would definitely agree with Bai Qinxiang. I'm sorry, but it's impossible for me to catch up with your progress. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.